Good morning, everybody. Hope everyone's having a great start to your. Oops, let me make sure we're live on LinkedIn. We are activated on LinkedIn. Sorry for the late start here today. We might go maybe 10 minutes over today just so I make sure we get all the material in that needs to be gotten in. We are good on. Yeah, we are good on Rumble. Good morning. Good on YouTube. Good morning. Good on X. Good morning. Good on Facebook. Yes. Good morning. Good on LinkedIn. Good morning. Good on Instagram. Good morning, Instagram. And we are also live on TikTok. So good morning. Somebody thought I got banned again. No, this one was on me. I just started a little bit late. But that issue will be fixed. So hope everyone's having a great week. Where are we at? Wednesday? Hope everyone's having a great week so far. We're in our transition day between the first half of the week and the second half of the week. Today we are going to talk about this whole situation that happened with two former football players. Some of you may know about this. What happened is two former football players, one of them named Ryan Clark, another one named Robert Griffin III, have been basically talking about, well, actually, let's not even say it that way. They have been talking to each other through the internet for the last couple of days, and this has become a big story that I'm going to talk about from a bigger picture angle, as usual. I'm going to talk about what actually happened, then we're going to go to the bigger picture angle of what this is really about, because some lines got crossed here that are not supposed to be crossed, and some people are trying to say that it's okay, and some are saying it's not okay. I'm going to tell you what I think about it and why that is. And by the way, I do take questions and comments, so I take them at the end. So let me first explain what happened here in this situation. And before I even do that, introducing myself, my name is Dre Baldwin. Many know me as Dre all day. I'm a former 9-year pro athlete. I'm author of 41 books. I've done 4 TEDx talks, and I own this company called Work on Your Game Incorporated, where we help entrepreneurs and professionals step your performance up from the mindset to the strategy to the systems to the implementation. You can find out more about that by going to workonyourgameuniversity.com, or you access my free Dre GPT chatbot by going to workonyourgame.com/AI, or just click the link in my profile, because there's a way to get there no matter which app you're on. We got different links and different stuff pinned. Just click on those links. You'll see the link to go to Dre GPT. That is my new chatbot that is trained on my style, my material, my frameworks, and my content. And it can help you, again, free of charge. Just go to Dre GPT. Again, that's workonyourgame.com/AI. Anyway, what happened here was the WNBA season has started. I don't know if all of you knew. I didn't know, but WNBA season started a few days ago. And in the first game of the season, the two players in the league who draw the most attention, they may not be the two best players. I think the best player in the WNBA is generally agreed upon to be this woman who plays in Vegas. Her name is A'ja Wilson. And seems most people agree she's the best player in the league. And performance-wise, even though I'm not a diehard WNBA fan, as a matter of fact, I'm not a WNBA fan at all, but I understand performance. And looking at her numbers and her performance and her results, Miss Wilson is the best player in the league, but she does not draw the most attention in the league. Who draws the most attention in the league is a white girl who plays for the Indiana team. Her name is Caitlin Clark. Some of you may have heard of Caitlin Clark. She was a big star in college basketball, and she's now brought a lot of her stardom to the WNBA, which drew a lot of attention to the WNBA last season, which was her first in the league. And she has this quote-unquote rivalry with another player who plays for the Chicago team. This woman's name is Angel Reese. Now, Angel Reese in college played for a couple of schools, but she played at LSU most famously. LSU in their next to last year in college for both girls, LSU's team played, Angel Reese's LSU team played against Caitlin Clark's Iowa team, and LSU won the game. At the end of the game, when the game was pretty much decided, it was only maybe a minute left in the game, and LSU was already up by a lot. Angel Reese decided to go and taunt Caitlin Clark on the court with a celebration that Clark used to use for herself, but she didn't do it to other players. Angel Reese went and used it on her when the game was already decided at the end of the game. This became a really big story, and everyone was talking about it the next day. The whole situation went viral. I personally didn't even know the women's championship game was happening when that thing happened. But then I saw the video too, and I saw everybody talking about it. I jumped in the conversation, not as a women's basketball fan, because I am not a women's basketball fan, but I did have some opinion on that just as a sports person myself and a person who talks about just human nature in general. So what happened is when Clark taunted Reese, a bunch of people didn't like the fact that when Reese taunted Clark, a lot of people didn't like the fact that Reese had done that taunt to Caitlin Clark. Personally, I'm on the record as having said this, and I've said this just as an athlete in general, is that if you're going to talk shit in sports, you got to talk shit when it's 0-0. Don't talk shit when your team's up by 15 and the game's already over, then talk shit. Now, if you could talk shit then, if you talk shit before when it was 0-0. Don't wait till you're already winning by a whole lot and then get cocky. All right, that's against the rules. That is a foul on the play. You are out of bounds doing that. Now, that rule, I generally hold men accountable to that rule. Now, Angel Reese is a female, so I understand why maybe she operates in a different way. Females have a different brain than men. So I give her a little bit of grace for that, but at the same time, was what she did at that point kind of classless, and it shows a lack of humility and a lack of whatever other term people want to use for what she did in that college championship game a few years ago? The answer is yes, it was. And the reason is because, number one, the player you're taunting never said anything to you and never taunted you. But then as soon as you're winning and you know the situation is decided, then you decide to taunt. Now, had she done it at the beginning of the game when it was 0-0 and then did it again at the end, I would say, oh, that's all fair game. Or you talk your shit, then you back it up. But now you're talking shit after you're already winning. No, that's not okay. But again, if she was a man, I would go harder on it. But because she's a female, I'm giving her a little bit of grace. So anyway, with all of that having happened, what happened here was these two players go to the WNBA the next season. So they played again in college the following year. They're both their last years in college. And in the tournament, they played in not the championship game, but the game before the championship game. And Clark got her revenge. Her team beat Reese's team, but she didn't taunt Reese after beating her. And the game ends in the post-game press conference. Miss Reese is asked questions about how she feels about the season ending, et cetera, et cetera. And then the tears come out. She starts crying and say, I've been villainized. I've been sexualized. I've been attacked, because of my race or because of who I am. And she's crying in the post-game press conference. And I remember seeing this and thinking to myself, look, see, this is what happens when people want to get into the shit talking space. And I tell most athletes, I've been talking about this for years because my background is playing basketball. And I would get a lot of basketball players asking me, Dre, what do you do when you're playing ball and somebody's trash talking you in the middle of a game? Whether you're playing at LA Fitness, you're playing on the playground, or you're playing in college, or playing at the pro level. And my general advice to most athletes is do not talk shit when you play sports if you are not built to talk shit. And if you're not sure if you're built to be talking shit in the sport competition, you're not built for it. If you got to think about it, you ain't ready to do it. All right, y'all understand? If you got to think about it, you should not be trash talking. I'm saying that to say this, because the trash talk, first of all, you got to still be able to perform while you're talking, so you don't allow your talking to distract you from your actual job, which is performing in the game. Secondly, that if you're going to dish it out, you got to be able to take it. If you're going to dish it out, you must be able to take it. That's how trash talk works. That is the rule of trash talking. If you cannot take everybody laughing at you because a joke got made about you, then don't be laughing too loud when a joke gets made about somebody else. All right, that's the way it works. Most human beings do not have the internal fortitude to take being the joke, but a lot of people will laugh real hard when somebody else is the joke. And Miss Reese, when she was high and mighty and winning, and 30 seconds left in the game, she goes and taunts Caitlin Clark. And then the next year when she loses, she didn't get taunted, but because of the backlash coming from the internet over the previous year, because of that taunt she did the year before, she was getting a whole lot of backlash just from the general public, and she fell to pieces underneath of that pushback. And the thing is, again, if you're going to do this when you're winning, you got to take it when you're losing. She ain't capable of taking it. This is the reason why I gave her a little bit of grace for what she did, because she's a female. Now, if she was a man, again, I would go a whole lot harder on this situation. All of that said, in case any of you didn't know, Miss Reese, the one who did the taunting, she is black, and she's probably about 6'3". I think, in height. And Miss Clark, she is white. And Miss Reese is, I believe, coastal. I believe she's from Maryland. And Miss Clark is from the heartland. She's from Iowa. And she is as white as a picket fence. So all of this became an even bigger story because it became this black versus white thing. All of that said, now they're playing in the WNBA. WNBA season just started last week. And trying to get some better ventilation here from my fan. It's not going hard enough. So WNBA season started last week, and the first game of the season, they had Clark's team against Reese's team. And during the game, at one point, Clark fouled Reese. The white girl fouled the black girl. The black girl fell down when she got fouled. She jumped up like she was angry, like she wanted to fight. This is a normal basketball thing. People just get fouled. And she was acting like it was too hard of a foul. It was not too hard of a foul. What's happened in basketball ever since 2004. In 2004, there was this event. There was a game between the Indiana men's team. They are connected, I guess, in some way. Indiana Pacers were playing the Detroit Pistons in Detroit in 2004, and a big brawl broke out to the point that the players were jumping in the stands and fighting the fans. This whole thing is known as the Malice in the Palace. It was a big deal in the NBA. And after that happened, for the last 20 years of basketball in general, the referees are a lot more sensitive when it comes to fouls, when it comes to conflict, when it comes to trash talk, when it comes to fan conduct. Everything is more sensitive now because everybody is on pins and needles and hoping that another Malice in the Palace does not happen where the players are jumping in the stands and beating up the fans, because that would hurt the money for everybody. It hurt a lot of people's money back then. It will hurt a lot of people's money if it happened again. Now, this was nowhere close to that happening, but because of this, the referees are a lot more sensitive these days. So if two basketball players start talking trash to each other in the game, now the referee will call a technical foul on both players. If you don't know what a technical foul is, it's basically an unsportsmanlike foul. If you get two of them in one game, you get thrown out of the game. You can't play anymore. So they use these technical fouls to kind of police any type of animosity, I guess you could say, verbal animosity, anything physical. If a player gets fouled and they fall on the ground, they make a big deal out of it, then they call a flagrant foul, which is basically an unsportsmanlike physical foul. And depending on the level of foul that you're assessed, you can get thrown out the game for that. You can get suspended for doing things like that. So the game has become a lot softer, generally speaking, because of these things over the last 20 years. So this foul that the white girl gave to the black girl in the WNBA game the other day, they called it a flagrant foul. It was not a flagrant foul, but they called it a flagrant foul. And just because the black girl fell on the ground and she jumped up as if somebody had tried to kill her and acted like she wanted to fight. She didn't want to fight. They weren't going to fight. Nothing was going to happen, and nothing did happen. So the game goes on. Miss Reese, the black girl, had an okay game for her team. Her team's not very good, and she is not a very talented basketball player. She does have the talent of being tall, so she's good at grabbing rebounds. That's what she's known for. She's not good at actually making the ball go in the basket, because the game is called basketball. We'll maybe get into that later. Not really. Miss Clark, the white girl, she is a very talented basketball player, a very skilled basketball player, and she had a triple-double, which is a big deal these days. It seems like players just fall out of bed and get triple-doubles. She got a triple-double, and her team won by like 35 points. So all that said, here's what happened after the game, maybe the day after the game. So this former football player named Robert Griffin III, he used to play in the NFL. I believe he won the Heisman Trophy. Somebody can fact-check me on that, or he was close to it. Either one or he was close to it. He played in the NFL. Had some injuries. His career didn't go so great or last so long. He makes a video. He's a podcaster now. He's been on TV. On his podcast, he puts out a video and says, Angel Reese, the black girl, hates Caitlin Clark, the white girl. And he gave a bunch of examples supporting his argument as why the black girl hates the white girl. The reason why this is a big deal is because any of you who doesn't know, if you get on social media, I don't know how much all of you use social media, but especially on an app like X, any type of race-based discussion gets a ton of engagement and a ton of attention and a ton of just back and forth conversation. This is what social media wants. So if you want to get a bunch of attention on social media, get on X. My name on X is Dre All Day. Get on X and just start talking about race or jump into conversations about race, and you'll get a whole lot of attention. And now if you bring some substance, you'll probably get more attention. But actually, you don't have to bring substance. You just say something that's engaging enough to the right audience, you'll get a lot of attention just off of that. I always aim to bring substance, but not everybody plays by the same rules that I play by. But anyway, Mr. Griffin, Robert Griffin III, said Angel Reese hates Caitlin Clark, and he gave his examples and reasons why he believes that. I'm not even going to make a case about why it's true or not. Now, this guy named Ryan Clark, who also played in the NFL for several, they're probably around the same age. Ryan Clark used to play in the NFL too. He no longer plays either. He is now on TV and has a podcast, etc. Same thing that damn near a lot of former athletes do. He makes a response. Well, he was on his show, and as part of the show, there was a segment where he responded to what Robert Griffin III said. And in short, what Ryan Clark says is that Robert Griffin III, now we all know publicly Robert Griffin III has twice been married. He is currently married, but he was married before. And both of his marriages, and by the way, both of these guys are black. Ryan Clark's a black guy. Robert Griffin III is a black guy. Robert Griffin III was married to a white woman, is not with that white woman anymore. He got married again to a different white woman. So Robert Griffin III is a black guy married to a white woman. He jumped in this conversation about Reese and Clark and said the black girl hates the white girl. And he gave reasons why the black girl hates the white girl. So Ryan Clark, who works on a TV, podcast, etc., he, for whatever reason, disagreed with this take. This is completely fine. You can disagree if you want to disagree. So in disagreeing with Robert Griffin III, here's what Ryan Clark says. And this is a snippet taken out of his show. He says, and Ryan Clark, by the way, we got to mention this. Ryan Clark is married to a black woman. He has a few kids with his black woman, and Robert Griffin has a few kids with his white woman. So Ryan Clark says that Robert Griffin III does not understand what black women go through in America. So we've heard this one before from a whole lot of black people. Ryan Clark, I will put this in. This is my opinion. Ryan Clark is a race hustler, and there's a lot of money to be made in race hustling. There's a lot of attention to be gotten from race hustling. Ryan Clark's a race hustler. So he's the person who panders to what the lowest level of intellect black people want to hear, which is that it's hard to be black, that America's racist against black people, and anything you do as a black person, you got to be 10 times better than a white person, get the same opportunity. All of you have heard these things before. I've talked about these. I've dissected them. I've beaten up these nonsense points. And again, ridiculously, you get people who have reached levels of success, like being an NFL football player for 10 years, like Ryan Clark was, being on TV, having your own podcast. It looks like he has a nice size audience and he's doing his thing. He has created, basically, most people would call him successful. And it's always ridiculous to me when successful black people get a platform and then they start telling other black people who are less successful how bad America is for them or how hard it's going to be for you to be successful when you are standing there as a picture of success. Why not just tell people what they need to do instead of pandering to their victimhood and pandering to their excuses? But anyway, so someone on YouTube asking, would Dr. Umar be a race hustler? Of course, Dr. Umar is a race hustler. Dr. Umar is entertaining. I actually like listening to him talk a lot of times because he's funny. But of course, he's a race hustler. What else is he going to be? Dr. Umar is a racist and a race hustler at the same time. But maybe we'll come back to him later. I'm going to get through my material, then we'll come to the comments. So Ryan Clark is a race hustler. Again, I ain't knocking him. I'm not mad at him. This is not a personal attack to call him a race hustler. So if Ryan Clark sees this is not a personal diss of him. I'm just pointing out what he is. He's a race hustler. Same way I'm not dissing Dr. Umar. And he comes out with a video and says, well, Robert Griffin III, he doesn't understand what black women go through in America. Now, I'm assuming Ryan Clark is saying this because Ryan Clark's not a woman. He's a man. He played in the NFL. I just told you. So what does he know about what black women go through in America? Well, we found out in the very next breath. He says Robert Griffin III does not have a black woman in his house. Therefore, he can't be speaking on what black women go through in America. Now, let's think about that. Ryan Clark said that this black guy said this black guy can't talk about what black women go through because you don't have a black woman in your house. What Ryan Clark was doing was juxtaposing. I got a black woman in my house. That's his wife. And you don't have a black woman in your house. That's Robert Griffin's wife. Therefore, you can't be talking about what black women go through. Now, here's the disconnect here. Now, again, Ryan Clark is allowed his opinion. If that's how you feel. That's how you feel. We're going to get to that. But the disconnect here is what the hell does, quote unquote, what black women go through in America have to do with two basketball players, their conflict on the court or off the court, and Robert Griffin's opinion that one player hates the other player. So Robert Griffin said the black girl hates the white girl. What the hell does any of that have to do with knowing what black women go through in America? That's the disconnect. That's the jump here that Ryan Clark made this jump, this logical jump that doesn't quite make any sense. In fallacies, we call this a non sequitur. It does not follow. You're making this point that does not follow the previous point that you made. So you're talking about what black women go through in America. What the hell does that have to do with a black girl playing in the WNBA? Not much, because what black women go through in America, again, is maybe he's talking on some racial tone level or the struggle of black women, whatever you want to call that. What does that have to do with this girl on a basketball court not liking another girl on the basketball court? Whether you believe she likes her or doesn't like her, loves her or hates her, where's this jump doesn't make any sense, which is what everyone should have been addressing. But guess what? This is a beautiful thing about race hustling. No one addressed the illogic of that jump because everybody got so excited over the race. This is why race hustling is what it is. Everyone got so excited over the racial point that Ryan Clark made that no one paid any attention to the lack of logic in his jump between what black women go through in America and talking about two basketball players having conflict on the court or even off the court. No one addressed that. And still no one has addressed it. And no one is going to address it. Now, here's what happened after that. After Ryan Clark said that, you got a white woman in your house, and what people are defending it by saying, some people have defended Ryan Clark, some people have defended Robert Griffin III. We'll call him RG3 moving forward. Robert Griffin III came out with a response video to that one, a long post on X and a video where he said, Ryan Clark, you have crossed the line. And for the record, do I agree that Ryan Clark crossed the line? Yes, I do. He crossed the line, and I'm going to explain here today why and how he crossed the line. And Robert Griffin III goes on to say, hey, I was just talking about two basketball players, one hating the other, and I gave examples from what happens on the court and some things that have been said off the court. The conversation was about two basketball players that are neither one of us. We as analysts are just discussing it. You came out with a response to what I said, and you start talking about my family. You're talking about my wife. You're talking about what's going on in my home, which has nothing to do with the point that I made. One basketball player hating another basketball player. What are you doing? Ryan Clark comes out with a response to the response, a response to the response to the response. And he basically says, I'm not going to say exactly what he said, but his general response is that it seems like he doesn't like Robert Griffin III. I believe from what he alluded to, they played on the same team in the NFL for some time, and he didn't like him then, I guess, and that they worked together on TV in some level, and he didn't like him then either, or he just didn't think Robert Griffin was that good. And he has gone on to say, and this is what many people defending Ryan Clark have said, well, RG3, Robert Griffin, he puts content out on the internet, and he is always platforming his wife. He puts his wife, who is white, out there with him on his podcast. They do videos together. Y'all know sometimes these people on TikTok doing these silly dances and kids get their parents doing this silly shit. My kids are never going to have me doing any dances on TikTok. That's not going to happen. If I ever do that, you can clip this out and hold it against me. But you get parents on there doing dances and silly shit and dressing up funny for engagement on social media. Robert Griffin III and his wife are obviously into that stuff. I ain't knocking it. I'm just saying it ain't for me, but he's into that. So he does it all the time. So he and his wife are always on camera doing videos, pictures, et cetera, et cetera. And his wife has her own brand and business and stuff that she's doing. Robert Griffin also, and this is what I think a lot of people are happy to see him getting his comeuppance, I guess, for lack of a better term. Also, he often will post pictures, or not often, but many times, he has posted photos or videos with his wife, who is white, and he makes he draws these analogies and uses these euphemisms to make sure everyone notices that he's black and she's white. So he often will refer to his wife as some form of milk. He'll have a picture with him and her, and he'll say something like cookies and milk, or he'll say a tall glass of milk. And he's referring to this white woman that he has with him, and in some ways objectifying, but looking at the tone and the energy of what he's posting, looking at it in full context, and listening to Robert Griffin III talk, from what I can take, is that he's doing it he's kind of like playing around with it. He's doing it as a joke. He's doing it as, yeah, I'm going to call her milk because I know all y'all noticing and I'm black and she's white. So I'm going to point it out instead of just putting it there and waiting for anybody else to say it. I'm going to say it and I'm going to make a joke about it. That's what it appears to me. And what some black people have said is that, no, that's not what he's doing. What he's doing by pedestalizing this white woman, I guess, some people believe this, he's pedestalizing his wife. I mean, if you're going to pedestalize a woman, it might as well be your wife. But he does this as a way of downgrading black women by talking about how much he loves the white woman. Now, again, where are you making this logical jump? And this is what Ryan Clark was trying to say in defending himself. In defending his position, he's saying, you got this white woman, and even off camera, you would often talk about how much you like milk, quote unquote milk, and you like white women, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Well, you can like a white woman if you want to, but you don't have to talk down on black women in order to do it. Here's the problem, Ryan Clark. I didn't hear Ryan Clark give one example of anything negative RG3 said about black women. All he said was that he likes his wife, or he likes white women in general. Let's just say he just loves white women. He doesn't choose black women. Let's just say that he just loves white women. All right. And if he could pick any woman in the world and there were 99 black women to choose from and one white woman, he's going to take the white one just because he likes white women. Let's just say that that's true. I never heard RG3 say a single negative thing about black women in general. I didn't hear Ryan Clark say that he did. All I heard Ryan Clark say was that you were always pedestalizing milk, quote unquote, white females because you like white females. And my response to that is, so what? Okay, let's say he likes white women. So what? You like black women. So Ryan Clark is trying to defend his position by saying that you always talk about how much you love white women. And I saw your wife. And this is what he said. This is the another illogical point he made was that I believe, he said, I met your wife. I believe she's a great woman. And he said positive thing. He said, I believe she's a lot more than the objectifications that you do of your wife and the content that you put out on the internet. This is a bullshit point by Ryan Clark. And he knows the bullshit point because Ryan Clark seems to be a thinking gentleman. He's not super high level of a thinking gentleman, but he seems to be a thinking gentleman on some level. Here's the problem with this argument. The problem with this is you saying that I think your wife is a lot more than how you put her out on the internet is another non sequitur fallacy. Why? Because just because someone puts something on the internet does not mean it represents the entirety of how they think, how they feel, or how they live. Would everybody agree with that? Just because you put something on the internet does not mean that's how your whole relationship is. I don't think that Robert Griffin III and his white wife are doing dances off camera all day just because they did a 2-minute dance on TikTok on Tuesday. I don't think that's true. I don't think they're always sitting around and he's taking pictures and calling her milk every time he walks by her in the kitchen when she's making dinner. I don't think that's the way that they're living off camera and offline. So just because someone posts something online all the time does not mean that that's representative of their entire train of thought or their entire way of thinking or the entire way that they're living. Ryan Clark is trying to draw this parallel. Well, the way you talk about her on the internet, I think she's a lot more than that. Mofo, of course she is. Are you really trying to make the argument that this is just all he thinks about when it comes to his wife? You are telling him that his wife is more than what he says on the internet. How are you qualified to make that kind of comment about another man's wife at home? Now, let me offer a counterpoint that is in favor of Mr. Clark. And those of you who are happy to see RG3 get, I guess, trashed, for lack of a better term, for not because of his Angel Reese Caitlin Clark take. Now, some people didn't like the take that he said Angel Reese hates Caitlin Clark. But what people really, really wanted to see was him get attacked because, well, you got a white wife. Why are you talking about a black woman hating a white woman? Maybe it's just because of your need to appease white people. Y'all hear this all the time from black people who don't like anything being said about a black person. Your need to appease white people. They just wanted to see him get trashed and be held accountable, quote unquote, because he has a white wife. Here's where I would say to RG3, for a part of this, I understand the backlash. Why? Because you have made content and you show everyone you got this white woman that is your wife and you allude to her as milk and you're kind of leaning into this whole thing that I'm black and she's white and I'm going to lean into it and I'm going to keep talking about it. And I know y'all were talking about it, so I'm going to talk about it too. And I'm completely okay with making a news item out of this. And this is something that I tell people all the time when it comes to social media. If you put your life on the internet, people are going to talk about your life. And they're going to draw conclusions about your life based on small piece of information that you put out on the internet. That's just how it is. That is the trade-off of social media, is that anything you put out there and anything you say or anything you do or anything that is said about you that is on the record in some way, such as a written word, video, picture, can and will be used against you by anybody who wants to make you look bad. Or they want to try to make you look bad. Now, this is what happens on the internet. So any of you didn't know, that's the trade-off of using social media, is that people are going to use anything they can find from or about you, even whether it's true or not, real or not, old or new, they will use it against you if they want to try to make you look bad. This is how the internet works. So for RG3, I would say you served up the material and now they're using it against you. He can't, on some level, he can't be mad about that. Now, when it comes to Mr. Clark, Ryan Clark saying that you don't have a black woman in your home, therefore, you can't talk about what a black woman goes through. This is a nonsense point. I've already told you that. We're going to come back to that in a second. Another thing that happened that I do have to put on the record for this conversation is that the people who are defending RG3 or didn't feel what Ryan Clark said was valid at all, they started posting this kind of back-to-back photos. And again, this is what happens, folks. and you get into these conversations, people are going to start using this shit against you. People start putting these photos of Ryan Clark with his black wife, and they compared it to Robert Griffin with his white wife. And people were saying, well, the real reason Ryan Clark is mad, and they didn't even say it in so many words, some people did, was that Robert Griffin's wife, on just attractiveness level alone, forget about skin tone, is better looking than Ryan Clark's wife. I'm not even going to leave a comment on that. And I'll get to in a second why I'm not going to leave a comment on that. Because remember, this whole title is how Ryan Clark crossed the line. And here's another thing that a lot of people don't know that needs to be put on the record for this whole conversation. Because Ryan Clark is making this whole thing of, I know what a black woman goes through. And he's positioning himself as the defender of black females. A lot of people don't know this. Ryan Clark has a child by a white woman. I never hear him talk about it. I never hear him say it. I even Googled when I saw somebody say it on social media a day or two ago. And I said, is that true? I didn't know that was true. And a bunch of people responded and said, yes, it's true. I went on Google to see if I could find out about it. I didn't see anything about it. It was hard to find. This man who is playing this whole role of, you don't know what a black woman goes through, and he's basically positioning himself as the savior of black women or defender of black women. Again, why? When the conversation is about two basketball players, he has a baby, not a baby, but she's grown now, by a white woman. Now, why does that matter? Here's why it matters. Because if you're making this whole conversation of you don't know what a black woman goes through, what is he going to say to, and that child he has is a female. So what's he going to say to her? Does she count as a black woman, or is she white, or is what does he say in that situation? What does he say to the man that she ends up marrying? Assuming that she's heterosexual, she marries a man. What does he say to that man? Does that man know what a black woman goes through? Does she count as a black woman? Is she a white woman? What does it mean? What if that man decides to call her milk? What if he decides to call her caramel because she's kind of a mix? What does he do? It doesn't make any sense. And again, this is the reason why you got to be very careful when you go into these situations. Now, as I already said, is that it is not a man's job. It is not a man's job to say things to get a round of applause from women. One of the reasons why feminism is where it is in the world right now, let's just say the United States, because that's where I live. One of the reasons why feminism has the power that it has and the reach that it has right now is because of shit like what Ryan Clark just did. What do I mean by that? When a man who has a platform comes out and positions himself as championing women in this situation. Now, I understand we're talking about an assault case and you come out and say, well, it's sad because, women don't want to feel threatened or feel like they're in danger when they're around a man. If something actually happened, that's completely fine. But you just crafting a reason to champion women or black women or any kind of woman just out of nowhere. He basically created this out of nowhere, out of pixie dust. All right, this is feminine energy male behavior. Feminine energy male behavior is the reason why feminism exists. Because if all men were just in their masculine and doing their role as a masculine man, that does not mean you got to play football. Doesn't mean you got to be tough. Doesn't mean you have to be rich. Doesn't mean you got to have an audience on the internet. If every man was in his masculine role, there would be no breathing room for feminism to exist. The reason feminism exists is because A, men not playing their masculine role, and B, men feminizing themselves to pander to women to get a round of applause from women. Ryan Clark got a lot of round of applause from a whole lot of black females for what he said the other day about RG3. That's the reason why this became a story. It is a man's role to play his masculine role so well, not so that he can have a platform from which he can talk about what women need and why women need this and what a black woman goes through and all that bullshit. It is a man's role to play his masculine role so well that the women notice him playing his role and they start doing things to get his attention. Not that he needs to do things to get their attention. That's not the way it works. It's not a man's masculine role to try to get the attention of a woman. It's a man's masculine role to play his role so well the women start noticing him and they start trying to get his attention. That way. That's the way it's supposed to go. But when men start feminizing themselves to pander to women, this is the reason why women who are into feminism feel even more emboldened and more empowered to keep going with where they're going. This is the reason why feminism exists. This topic today is not about feminism, but that needs to be said. When a man is in his masculine doing this, when a man's in his masculine, he's doing that. And when a man is in his feminine frame, again, he's trying to pander to women. A man's job is not to pander to a woman. All right. The woman's job is to, if we're going to call it pandering, the woman's job is to pander to a man. And women do not pander to feminine men. Did y'all ever notice that? Any women in here? Y'all can co-sign that one. Women don't line up to quote unquote pander to, or to serve, or to support, or to be around a feminine man. Now, they may appreciate something that a feminine man says. They may appreciate the attention that they get from him, but a woman will never have full respect for a feminized man. Why? Because you are bowing to the woman, and no one can respect someone who is bowing to them. They can appreciate you. They can like it. They can take the ego boost to go with it. But a man who's in his masculine he is going to have women pandering to him. If you want to use the term pandering, I'm using that just to make the point. But continuing where we're at. When two men are having a public disagreement, the focus must stay on the topic, not turn into a personal attack, especially, saying that 3 times, over another man's woman. This is why Ryan Clark has crossed the line. I don't give a damn how many videos RG3 puts on the internet. I don't care if his wife is in every single one of them. I don't care if he posts a picture with his wife every day, calling her milk and calling himself whatever he wants to call himself. I don't give a damn if he does it every single day, calling that woman milk and talking about his wife and how much he loves his wife, etc., etc., etc. There is a line for the men out there. Please understand this. There are 2 subjects you never, ever, ever bring up when you're in a disagreement with another man. 2 things you do not touch. These are third rail things you don't bring up. I don't care who the man is. I don't care how upset you are at the man. I don't care how much you're trying to get his attention, how much you're trying to hurt him or bash him or trash him. You do not bring up another man's woman, and you do not bring up his kids. You don't do that. You never, ever bring up another man's woman or his kids. Whether that's his girlfriend, his wife, the girl he brought with him to the restaurant that night, or his children, you do not do this. Only time you would speak on it is if he brings it into the conversation and the conversation is about that. Then you can say it. At the same time, you need to be very careful with what you say. Because one thing that I know when it comes to men, it could be the nicest man, the calmest man, the least threatening man you know in the world. If you want to turn a man threatening, even if he seems to not be threatening, all you had to do is threaten his woman or threaten his children or speak on his woman or his children. All right, that'll put you in a bad space with that man. This is the frame that LeBron James tried to use when it came to his approaching Stephen A. Smith a few months ago, if y'all remember that whole situation. And what LeBron was saying was that, well, you're approaching me over me being a father. You're talking about me as a father. When, again, this is another false frame that a feminized man, LeBron was in his feminine in that moment when he did that. I'm not saying he's all the way feminine, but he was feminized in that moment because he was using the prospect of, oh, you're talking about me as a father rather than just talking about my son not being qualified to be on the LA Lakers, which he isn't. And the only reason that Stephen A. Smith was talking about it is because LeBron made it a story. LeBron said, if you want me on the team, you got to put my son on the team. His son ain't good enough to be on the team on his own merits. That's why LeBron had to use himself to get his son on the team. That happened. Stephen A. Smith was talking about it. Everybody was talking about it. And we all know that it's true. And LeBron knows it is true. And because he knew it was true, and he was trying to figure out a pretext. He was coming up with a logical excuse for an emotional reaction. His emotional reaction was, everybody's talking about the fact that my son ain't good enough to be on the team, and it's obvious he ain't good enough to be on the team, and everybody's looking at me because I'm the one who got him on the team. I need to somehow, some way displace this energy, this guilt, and this embarrassment that I feel over the situation. So he used Stephen A. Smith as a proxy for that. And he approached him and said, oh, well, you talking about me as a father. No, mofo. We're talking about you as a recruiter because you said put this guy on the team. He can't play. That's what we're talking about. And that's a man in his feminine. Because instead of just owning it, what LeBron James should have did was own it and say, you know what, my son is not good enough to be on the Lakers. That's why he's playing in the G League. And I should not have force-fed him onto this team. I should have let him stay in college or earn his way into the NBA on his own merits rather than me forcing the situation. See, that would have been LeBron in his masculine. But instead, he was in his feminine, so he needed an excuse to displace that energy and put it on somebody else. As if Stephen A. Smith is the reason why his son ain't playing. All right, Stephen A. Smith ain't the reason your son's sitting on the bench for the Lakers. You're the reason. Because if you would have not said nothing, your son would still been in college. Or you would have been in the G League and everybody would have said, all right, he's doing his thing in the G League. But you said put him on the Lakers. Did everybody understand that? That's a man in his feminine. And it doesn't make you a bad guy because that can happen to any man. The thing is, you got to check yourself. Now, that's what masculinity is about. And that's the reason why masculine men need to have other masculine men around them. So you can't get this from talking to a female. Ryan Clark. See, and when Ryan Clark made his comment on his, I believe it was on his podcast, his co-host, one of his co-hosts was sitting there right there talking to him. So they're talking to each other. It's just on camera. And this is all for their show. If Ryan Clark had masculine men around him, one of those men would have said, yo, first of all, you're out of bounds. Do not bring up another man's wife because that has nothing to do with this conversation. Secondly, Ryan Clark would have appreciated that because he would have appreciated the masculine men around him checking him on the first principle. Don't talk about another man's wife or kids, period. I don't care what point you're trying to make. Unless the man brought his wife into the conversation, which Robert Griffin III did not, or he brought his kid into the conversation, which Robert Griffin III did not, you don't go and pull that into the conversation just to make a point. You don't do that. And Ryan Clark should know better. I don't know Ryan Clark, but he should know better. That's just a simple man rule. I don't know who raised Ryan Clark. Obviously, he puts a lot of value in the fact that he has a woman at home with him, and that's cool. All right, if you're a heterosexual man, it's a good idea to have a woman at home with you. However, as a man, you can't stay in your masculine and make sure you're staying principled in your masculine by just talking to women. A woman cannot teach a man how to be a man. A woman cannot check a man on masculinity. That's not possible. That's the reason why men need ways to connect with other men. Even if you are married, even if you got 5 female children, you need a way to connect with other men because you're going to lose your masculinity if you're only talking to females. And Ryan Clark, he put out there the fact that I got a woman at home, a black woman at that, and therefore I know what black women go through. And what the hell he's talking, doesn't even matter. It's not even a topic here today. But he's in his feminine, and he had a man sitting across from him. I believe it was Fred Taylor who was sitting across from him. Fred Taylor, another former football player. I didn't hear Fred Taylor say shit. What Fred Taylor should have done, I don't know if he did it off camera. Maybe he did. He should have checked him and said, dog, you out of bounds. And they shouldn't have put that clip out there. They should not have put that out. They should have said, let's cut that. Let's not put that out. Let's reshoot that part and not say that. Or he should have just told him publicly, which is what Robert Griffin III said in his response to the response video. Do not bring up another man's wife. Do not bring up another man's kids. Don't do that. I don't care what your reason is. Even if you hate the dude, you keep it direct between you, man to man. You keep it between the men. As soon as you bring a woman into the conversation, you've taken the gloves off and you don't know how that man's going to react. Or you bring his kids in, exact same thing. And now it's no longer about just disagreement. This is the problem with Ryan Clark. He disagreed with Robert Griffin's take on Angel Reese versus Caitlin Clark. And by the way, Ryan Clark and Caitlin Clark are not related. All right. If you disagree with me on a point, let's stick to the point. Don't attack me as a person because you disagree with my point. This is where Ryan Clark is off again. This is what we call the ad hominem. Ad hominem means, the translation means to the person. That's when you attack a person because you disagree with their position. And people do this all the time, especially when they're emotionally triggered. Most of the time, when I say most of the time, yes, more than 50% of the time when you see an ad hominem, usually it's coming from, we'll exclude children. When we talk about adults, usually coming from a woman. Why? Because when a woman is emotionally triggered, because she doesn't have the physicality of a man, she often will use her verbal tools to attack, whereas a man always has the option of using his physical tools to attack. Which is the reason why men should be, if a man is in his masculine, he should be able to address a point and focus on the point. Even if he vehemently disagrees with the point and he vehemently doesn't like the person, you should still be able to keep it on the point rather than making it personal about the other individual. This is where Ryan Clark is wrong again, because Ryan Clark disagreed with RG3's position, his point. He said Reese hates Clark. Okay, I disagree with that. Reese doesn't hate Clark, and here's why you're wrong, Robert Griffin III. That's all he had to do. Instead, he says, well, you're married to a white woman, so why are you talking about a black woman at all? Okay, let's address that. Let's talk about that one more time. Ryan Clark is a black man married to a black woman. And he says, I got a black woman at home, so I can talk about what black women go through. Okay, Ryan Clark. So that means you're not allowed to talk about white people at all. I mean, that's the game we're playing, right? Did I get this wrong? He's saying, as a black man married to a black woman, I'm qualified to talk about what black women go through. You, since you have a white woman, you're not qualified. Okay. So that means you can't say anything about white people. Where would he be as a race hustler? Would he be on ESPN? Would he have a podcast? Would he have an audience if he couldn't talk about white people at all? You ain't limited to talking about black people, Ryan Clark, because based on your frame, a guy with a white wife can't talk about black women. So a guy with a black wife can't talk about white women, right? So that means you can't mention Caitlin Clark. That means you can't talk about white people at all because you ain't got no white people at home. All right, Robert Griffin got a white person at home, so now he got a much bigger space to work with, right? if that's how we're playing, and now obviously that doesn't make any sense, right? So this is the problem that a lot of black people don't want to address because in the United States of America, it is perfectly fine for a black person to come out and say whatever the fuck they want about white people. Is this true or not? And those of you who are white, y'all know this is true. Those of you who are black, you know it's true. I'm black. I could get on here and say whatever I want about white people. I could just trash white people. I could say white people are racist. White people are the scum of the earth. White people came out of caves. White people don't have their own homeland. I could say anything I want about white people, just trash them incessantly as much as I want. And pretty much nothing is going to happen to me. I wouldn't lose my job. I wouldn't get called into HR. I'm not going to get my content taken down. Nothing's going to happen. I probably won't even get that much blowback from anybody. I can just trash white people. But if a white person comes on the internet and starts trashing black people, they're going to lose their career. They're going to lose their friends. They're going to get shunned. They might get their stuff taken down off the internet. They might not have any friends when it's over. So this is what we've created in America. I guess we can call this a double standard, that black people can say whatever they want about white people, but white people can't say anything about black people. This is the reason why we had a black fatigue thing that we just heard about a week or so ago, that white people are finally pushing back and saying, all right, enough of this shit. And Ryan Clark is one of the things that people are saying enough of. This approach, not Ryan Clark the person, but this approach that he has for this content. Enough of this shit. Y'all just gonna say whatever you want, and we're just gonna sit there and take it. Just say whatever you want about us, and then if a white person says something, well, you don't know what it's like to be black in America. But a black person will talk all day about what white people do and how white people think and why white people are wrong and why white people are historically racist and inherently racist. A black person will say that, and you got to sit there and listen to it. There are consultants who get paid to go into businesses and tell white people exactly who they are, what they are, how they think, and why they're wrong. Are there any white people who can go into a black business as a consultant and tell you how black people think? All right, that sounds ridiculous. That would never happen, right? That's not even an industry. The whole point being, I'm making light of Ryan Clark's flimsy point, poorly fleshed out point, that because he has a black woman at home, that makes him qualified to talk about black women. So my question to Ryan Clark is a few questions. I'll ask him one question to the audience. Let's say RG3 had agreed with Ryan Clark's position when it comes to Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark. Let's say RG3 came out and said, no, Angel Reese doesn't hate Caitlin Clark. She's just tired of the backlash from these fans. And there's some racist fans out there who are also Caitlin Clark fans. And Caitlin Clark needs to tell her fans to back down and stop talking shit about Angel Reese. Let's say RG3 came out and said that. Would Ryan Clark come out and say, oh, RG3, hey, you got a white woman at home. You're not allowed to talk about that. Would he say that? Of course, everybody knows the answer is hell no. He wouldn't say a damn thing. He would not have even addressed the topic. But his frame would still be true. His frame would still be true. RG3, white woman at home, white wife. You're not allowed to talk about black women, not even in a positive way. The only reason RG3 pushed back is because he disagreed with the point of Reese hates Clark. He disagreed with the point, so he decided to attack the person. All right, that's a man in his feminine. Anytime a man does that, you're in your feminine. And again, it doesn't make you a bad person. It can happen to anybody. But if he disagreed with the point, he should have kept the focus on the point. He didn't do that. And then he brought it into, and now if he would just attack RG3, the man, and said, well, I don't like you personally because I didn't like you in the NFL. I didn't like you when we worked on TV together. I don't like your haircut. I don't like the shoes that you wear. I don't like the set that you use for your podcast. He would just start attacking him on a personal level. He would still be wrong and still be in his feminine. And people would have pointed that out and he would have looked silly. But because instead he took it to a topic that a lot of people are happy to see brought up, race. Oh, you got a white wife at home. So let me just trash the fact you have a white wife. I'll use your wife as a pejorative to attack you. I'll use her as a pejorative proxy to attack you. Then there's a whole bunch of black people who get excited about this shit. They're all happy to see Ryan Clark say what he said. And I saw it all on social media the last 2 days. Now, what do I mean when I say he uses wife as a pejorative? Because what he said, I think she's a lovely woman and she's nice, et cetera, et cetera. That's some fodder bullshit. What he was actually doing was bringing Robert Griffin III's wife into the conversation as a way of painting Robert Griffin III as unqualified on the subject. He was basically, this is what we call the poisoning the well fallacy. So he's basically saying anything Robert Griffin III says that has to do with a black female, none of you should listen to any of it because his wife is white. That's what he was doing. So he was using his wife as a way of making him look bad. So, hold on. I just got kicked off of TikTok. My live access was removed because I violated community guidelines. They didn't tell me why I violated community guidelines, so I got to take a picture of this. What did I just say? Did I say anything wrong? Those of y'all watching me on Instagram, YouTube, X, Rumble, Facebook, and LinkedIn, what did I say wrong? My live access was removed because I violated community guidelines. I don't even know what I said, but let's see. So it doesn't tell me what happened here. Let's say it says hate speech. Our hate speech violation. TikTok is enriched by, let's see what it says here. TikTok is enriched by the various backgrounds of our community members. Our differences should be respected rather than a cause for division. We do not allow hateful behavior, hate speech, or promotion of hateful ideologies. This includes content that attacks a person or group because of protected attributes. Visit our community guidelines for more information. All right, this makes no sense. What can you do? You can submit an appeal, learn more about our guidelines, or view more details. We believe in an inclusive. Do I agree with this decision? No, I don't agree with this decision. So they're saying that I said some hate speech. What did I say? Again, I don't even know what I said. But now we got to get to this appeal. I'm going to appeal in 1 second. So those of y'all who are jumping over to Instagram from TikTok, they just kicked me off TikTok and said that I violated community guidelines on hate speech. All right, what the hell did I say? All right, so now I'm going to appeal this. And let's see. All right, so I'm submitting my appeal. We've done this before, by the way. So those of you who are not familiar with this, we've been here before. So my application is in review of this. What does it say? So it tells me that I've been banned from going live for 7 days. I officially right now have a 7-day ban on TikTok because of hate speech. And I don't know what I said. What did I say that was hateful in that China Hodge I see you over there? Yeah, so what did I say that was hateful? What did I say? So who knows? Maybe some people who were listening to the live didn't like something that I said because I was in the middle of a point about, what was I talking about? I talked about him having a white wife. I don't know. Maybe I just kept saying the word white. Maybe that's what maybe that's hate speech. Saying the word white is hate speech. But the suspension is always 7 days. That's a normal thing. They always give you 7 days. I've had that happen. This is suspension number 12. This is the 12th time I've been suspended off TikTok in the last 11 months. So I started around maybe late August. So we got September, October, November, December is 4. Then these 5 months, 9, 10 months. So the last 10 months, I have been suspended 12 different times or completely banned from TikTok 12 different times because of this shit. And now I just got to keep checking my appeal status to find out what's going on. So I submitted this appeal. I got suspended at 9:01. I submitted the appeal at 9:03. So we're going to find out in a second. This usually doesn't take that long to find out if my, let's see. So the violation clip. Untitled stream. No, let's see. Maybe they're going it says violation clip. So maybe they're going to tell me what it is that I actually said that is the violation. It says violation clip. And then it starts to load up a video, but then the video doesn't play. So it shows like an error of why the video happened. So let's see. I'm just taking screenshots or pictures of this just so I have this all on the record of what happened. So let me see. So violation reason, what this means, what you can do, you can submit an appeal. So we're waiting for this appeal response here. So TikTok, then after all that, TikTok gives me the congratulations on my live stream. I had 1,000 viewers, 8 gifters, 13 new followers on this live stream. They're congratulating me, but then now I don't have that. I won't be able to share that footage on, what's the thing? Like TikTok live highlights because they kicked that off. The restrictions. So the restriction, they said live access suspended for hate speech. View details. Results. My appeal was approved, everybody. Can y'all believe it? All right, I'm gonna show y'all this. See, this is the bullshit that happens on TikTok. So now I'm about to get crazier. My appeal was approved, everybody. I won. So my appeal was just approved literally at 9:04. I submitted the appeal at 9:03 and it was approved at 9:04. Look at this shit. Look at this shit. I submitted it at 9:03 and I won at 9:04. Y'all see that? So I'm glad I waited on this. I've done this enough. As y'all can see, I have experience in this. Am I satisfied with the outcome? Yes, I'm satisfied with the outcome. The problem is I'm unsatisfied with the fact they just cut off my fucking live. And I was in the middle of making a very good point. So now, TikTok, I am, well, not TikTok, but all of you who jumped over from TikTok, I'm going back live on TikTok and we'll continue where we left off. So thank you everybody for bearing with me on Rumble, X, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and those of you who jumped over from TikTok over to Instagram. Now we are back on, and I will just wait for the TikTok audience to repopulate. Now I got to tell them what the fuck happened. I got to explain this part again, and then we'll get back to the point and back to the topic of what we were talking about. This is the kind of shit you got to go through if you want to create content these days, I suppose. So I'm just waiting. I'm waiting a minute for everybody to come back in. I just got suspended again. For those of you who want to know what happened, I just got suspended off TikTok again. Literally 7 minutes ago. It's 9:08 a.m. 7 minutes ago, I got suspended on TikTok again. That happened. That was suspension number 12. I allegedly, ladies and gentlemen, I was suspended for hate speech. I got suspended for hate speech. Any of you didn't know? I just got suspended. China, thanks for jumping back over for Instagram. I got suspended for hate speech 7 minutes ago, everybody. I want all of you on TikTok to understand what just happened. All right, so I got to paint this picture. I'm just waiting a minute for my TikTok audience to come back in. Then we'll pick up where we left off. So 7 minutes ago, everybody, I got suspended from TikTok for hate speech. They said that I have violated the hate speech community guidelines. I didn't really violate the hate speech community guidelines. Let me tell you what actually happened. And then let me go back. I submitted an appeal I got suspended at 9:01 a.m. Then I submitted an appeal at 9:03 a.m. MC Duds. Yeah, I'm back on TikTok now. I just came back on TikTok. I submitted an appeal at 9:03 a.m. and my appeal was approved at 9:04 a.m. So let me tell y'all what actually happened. That something that I said or some things that I was saying was pissing off some people. Yeah, it was pissing off some people. TikTok didn't report me as people on TikTok. Yeah, that's what Liam Lisa. That's exactly. It's some people who were watching my live, really didn't like what I was saying. So they flagged or reported my live. And if you do it often enough, it'll get you suspended. And then you got to go and do the appeal. So it basically breaks the stream and you got to stop your stream. Then you got to go appeal. And it literally took TikTok system 1 minute to see that I wasn't spewing any hate speech. Now, I will tell you, if I was a white person saying stuff about black people, then it probably actually would have been real hate speech. But anyway, let me get back to where I was at. Okay, what's the last thing y'all heard me say? What's the last thing I was talking about before I got kicked off TikTok so unceremoniously and rudely by these people trying to stop the flow? So what was the last thing y'all heard me say so I can pick up right where I left off? My question to the audience: what's the last thing you heard me say? So someone said that you were getting too much traffic. And that wasn't even super that much. It was maybe 130 people or so concurrently at the time that I kicked off. I've had way more people than that. I've had 400 or 500 on different subjects. But anyway, not Robert Griffin III. Let me go back. Ryan Clark. Ryan Clark is making this argument. I was talking about Ryan Clark would say if it was someone else. Yes, exactly. So if Ryan Clark agreed with RG3's point, would he have said, well, you can't talk about black women because you got a white wife at home? Would he have said that? The answer is, of course not, even though it's still true, right? His whole thing is you don't know what a black woman goes through, so you can't speak about black women because you don't have a black wife. Okay, so what if RG3's opinions all aligned with Ryan Clark's opinions? Would Ryan Clark ever say to him, hey, even though you agree with me, you can't talk about black women because you don't got a black woman at home? The answer is, of course not. So I'm saying all that to say this. Ryan Clark was triggered by the disagreement he had with RG3's point. There's nothing wrong with that. That you can go out and respond. You disagree with what somebody else says publicly, you can come out and publicly attack their point. Nothing wrong with that. That's basically what social media has become these days, especially discourse on sports, politics, social issues, etc. Somebody says something publicly, you don't like it, you come out and say something, then they say something. There's this whole back and forth thing, and it drives engagement, and everybody pays attention, and it becomes this big show. That's what social media is. Nothing wrong with that. But when you take your disagreement and you bring his wife into the conversation to make a point because you disagree with what he said, and you're only saying that because you disagree with him, not because you're trying to invalidate him. Let me back up. You're trying to invalidate him as part of your disagreement but you wouldn't invalidate him if you didn't disagree with him, even though your invalidation point would still stand, which means it's a bullshit point. Because if it was a legitimate point, you would say to him, I don't care what your opinion is on anything. Just the fact that you have a white wife, nothing you say is valid simply because you got a white wife. And it'd be over. Nothing you say is valid. This is called the poisoning the well fallacy. You're basically saying anything that comes out of this person's mouth with regards to this subject, don't listen to it. Now, how many of you have heard that? All right, just yesterday, we were talking about the Joe Biden books that are coming out. And a lot of people trying to play cover up for the Biden administration are saying these people are just trying to make money. They're just trying to sell books. They're just trying to trash the Biden legacy. Well, they probably do want to make money because that's what's called work. They do want to sell books because nobody writes a book and doesn't want to sell it. And they're trashing the Biden legacy. Well, maybe it deserves to be trashed. Let's read the book and find out. Let's see what they got to say. Anyway, Ryan Clark's completely off here because he dipped into his feminine. I don't know how often he's in his feminine. I can only go off of what I see on the internet. And let me be very clear, using my own frame. I cannot say anything about Ryan Clark, the person, because I don't know Ryan Clark, the person. Only thing I know about this man is what he puts out on the internet. And I'm just responding to and judging what he puts on the internet. I am not saying that whatever he puts on the internet is reflective of who he is as a person, what he does when the cameras are off, or what he's doing behind closed doors in his own house, which is what Ryan Clark does not have the emotional control to do and use that same frame on a person he disagrees with, being RG3. This is where he failed. This is why I'm describing it as him being in his feminine energy, because a woman will do this when she is triggered. A man, when he is triggered, should not have this problem because, again, men always have the option of physicality, and a man should be emotionally controlled enough, more than a woman, to where he doesn't allow his disagreement on a subject to throw him off the rails and get him crossing lines that he knows better than to cross. What if somebody came out and started talking shit about Ryan Clark's wife? I'm not talking about some internet person just talking. I'm not talking about internet people. I'm talking about someone who he actually knows who they are. Someone who he's met before. He shook their hand, looked them in the eyes. What if someone came out and started talking bad about Ryan Clark's wife and how she looks and her level of attractiveness or lack thereof? What if someone came out and started saying that about his wife? How would he respond? He probably wouldn't take too well to that. But you're using another man's wife and her skin tone as a way of attacking him. What if someone used the looks of your wife as a way of attacking you? I don't think he would like that. What do y'all think? Y'all think he'd be okay with that? I don't think so. So the other thing is this. There's many other things. When did it become a thing that this whole black female, what a black woman goes through, when did there become this special designation that black women have this, that there's only certain people who can speak about them? So anybody can say anything about a black man. You can say anything about a white woman. You can say anything about a white man. But when it comes to the black female, there's like this special designation that they need to be treated with kid gloves. How is this? How is this? While at the same time, we were about to elect a quote unquote black woman to be president, the biggest job in the country, but all of a sudden, but you're not allowed to speak on black women, but in a certain tone, in a certain way, just because they're this special protected group. But at the same time, we want one of them to be our leader. That doesn't add up. Because if they're going to be the leader, they got to be mentally tough enough to deal with anything and everything that comes out. Not, oh, you can only talk about them a certain way, or only a certain group of people could talk about them. Nobody else can say anything. So what if Kamala had become president? So that means white people who work at CNN or Fox or MSNBC couldn't say anything about her because they're white or because they're men. Oh, you can't talk about her because she's a black woman. Wait, no, she's a fucking president. We almost elected that. We almost elected a quote unquote black woman as president. So anybody can say anything about any other group, but all of a sudden there's this whole thing that when it comes to black women, there's some special gloves you got to put on before you touch them. I don't understand this. I don't understand this frame, and I understand where it came from. This feminism thing has been bubbling up for years, especially in the black community, where you get The Color Purple, you get Waiting to Exhale, you get all these movies about black women basically bashing black men and making black men look like bumbling idiots while the woman is the one who's saving the day. Tyler Perry has done it as well. And I get where it came from, but why is everybody bought into it? Most importantly, the black men, Ryan Clark. Most importantly, the black men. I have said repeatedly, the biggest challenge in the black community is a lack of two-parent homes. And one of the reasons why there aren't two-parent homes is because black men keep having babies with women who they are not looking to build a long-term relationship with. And now you have a broken home. And now those kids, the girl is growing up to be a woman who doesn't know what a masculine man looks like because you didn't have one at home. And the man is growing up not knowing how to be in his masculine because he had no role model. All his only role model was a woman. No wonder we get so many men in their feminine energy, because where they get it from? Mom. They ain't got no dad at home. So how they gonna learn how to be a man? You can't learn how to be a man from a woman. That's not possible. It's biologically impossible. And you cannot learn how to be a woman from a man. You need a mom and you need a dad. You need both parents. And I still hear people saying stupid shit on the internet. Well, it depends on which parent, because a kid can come from a broken home, meaning the mom and dad are not together, and they can still turn out to be great. Is that true? Yes. Does that make the general point wrong? No, it doesn't. Exceptions prove the rule. We need two-parent homes because the builders of a society are men. When a society is doing well, it's because the men are doing their job. When a society is failing because the men are not doing their job, the black community is failing because black men are not doing their jobs, most specifically being in the home with the kids that they have created, period. And when there are not two men, when there are not two parents at home, there's not a man at home, the men are raised to behave like women, even though they have the physicality of men. This becomes dangerous. This is why our prisons look the way that they look. And the women are growing up not knowing what a respectable man looks like. And this is how you get OnlyFans, you get hoes, you get songs like Wet Ass Pussy being popular, because the women don't know what it looks like to deal with a man in a respectable way, or have a man deal with you in a respectable way. So you feel like you got to go be a Cardi B or a Megan Thee Stallion, or back in the days, a Lil' Kim or an OnlyFans girl, in order to get some attention from a man. And listen, I say this as a man who's been outside, that there are benefits to women having this mindset, but they ain't becoming your wife. There are benefits to women who have this mindset being used for what they are making themselves available for. However, those are not your wives. Those are your have fun. And you damn sure shouldn't be having a baby with them, because now that woman with that mindset that was not raised properly now is raising your child. And you ain't at the home with them because you have money, or because you're a good guy and she's a good girl, the kid can still end up cool. What's the mindset that she was raised with? What's the mindset she was in the streets with? What's the mindset that got her to get your attention in the first place, to where you had unprotected sex with her? Another mistake you made as a man. Now you got a baby with her, and now you're not around every day as she's raising your son. What kind of man is he going to grow up to be? You tell me. This is what's happening in the black community, because men are not doing their jobs. I don't blame this on the women. Just to be clear, I don't blame this on the women. This is the men. When men are consistently in their feminine and not doing their jobs, then the society collapses. And the black community has been collapsing for 60 years because it's gotten worse and worse and worse. And I'm not saying Ryan Clark is endemic of this. I'm saying what he did is endemic of this. I want to be very clear and very precise in my language, because it appears that he is with the mother of his kids, at least the three that he has with her. He's with them and he's doing his job as a father. I'm assuming. I don't know. I have no idea what he's doing with his kids or his wife. And again, you don't speak on other men's wives and kids. You just don't do it. And when your argument is strong, there's no need to get personal. Just period. You can debate with logic, facts, and perspective. If you are of a solid level of intellectual capabilities and you have the ability to articulate yourself well, Ryan Clark seems to be pretty well. He can articulate himself pretty well. He ain't super high level, but he's pretty good. He's better than average. He can articulate himself well, and he tries to appear that he's in his masculine most of the time. He wasn't in this situation, but most of the time he appears, or at least tries to appear that he is. Then he should have just debated the dude on the points, just on the logic. You are off because A, B, C, D, E, F. And never bring up that man's wife, and not bring up anything about him personally at all. You should be able to debate with another person and vehemently disagree with them without ever attacking anything about them personally. You don't have to talk about somebody's looks. You don't got to talk about how much money they got. You don't have to talk about who they're cool with. You don't got to talk about their family. If you got to do any of these things as a man, you're in your feminine, period. Even if someone's doing it to you, you're in your feminine. This happens on X not almost every day, every day. I'll respond to something that somebody posts and disagree with them. And then a bunch of people who agree with the thing that I'm disagreeing with, they'll get mad at me because I'm representing the disagreement of the point. And instead of addressing the point that I made and telling me why my point is wrong, they'll come in and try to attack me personally. That was on the internet. So, these things have no credence. So you don't need to respond to them or anything like that, or even read into them. But this is what people do. This is what men do when they're in their feminine. This is what children do. This is what women do. I understand a child doing it because the child doesn't have no full control of their mind yet. And I understand a woman doing it because a woman is in a different energetic state than a man. But I do not appreciate when a man does it. I understand when men do it, but I don't appreciate when men do it. And we as men need to fix this shit. This is the reason why society is collapsing, because too many men are stepping too far into their feminine way too often and staying there. That's the problem. We can't have this. When you're emotional on a subject, there's nothing wrong with emotion. Emotion is a great thing because there's energy in emotion, and energy is everything. It's one of the laws of energy. Energy is everything. You have no energy, you call that death. So you need energy. Emotions have energy in them. So appreciate emotion, but a man must learn how to channel their emotion, even if the subject is something that gets you really excited, such as race. So a lot of black men are really excited around the race topic. I think one of the reasons is, especially heterosexual black men, getting excited around the race topic because a lot of women are excited around the race topic, and a lot of men, not for nothing, there's a lot of men who don't get a lot of engagement from attractive women. But if they were to show that they agree with what a woman that they see as attractive believes in, then they can get some connection to that woman. Even if it's not a real connection, it can feel like it can be an imaginary connection, which feels like something. You can get some acknowledgement from a woman of a level of attractiveness that you otherwise would not have earned had you just been your normal self. So you go along with whatever the woman goes along with. This is the reason why we have feminism, because you got a lot of men getting behind women instead of getting in front of them where they're supposed to be. And now these men are feminizing themselves just so they can pander to and stay close to, again, in a real way or in a metaphorical way, close to a female. And it doesn't mean the women are wrong for having the positions that they have, but a woman is a woman for a reason. The man is a man for a reason. The man's job is to lead. So if a man is following behind a woman's lead on certain social topics and certain opinions, you are already in the wrong spot. All of you know how to drive a car, right? How many steering wheels in a car? How many driver seats in a car? There's a lot of cars out there. I keep seeing this Genesis car, which I didn't know what the Genesis car was, but I looked it up the other day. Genesis is made by Hyundai, and they're trying to make like a high-end version of Hyundai, and it's they're trying to compare it to like a BMW or a certain type of like an S-type Mercedes is the Genesis, and I've started noticing them the last few days. Maybe because now that I know what it is, now I keep noticing them. The point is, there's a lot of different cars out there. You got BMW. You got Smart Car, you got Range Rover, you got Oldsmobile. They still exist. You got Cadillac, you got Mercedes, you got all these different types of cars. I ain't never seen a car with 2 driver seats. I ain't never seen one. Every car has 1 driver seat, 1 steering wheel. What does that mean? That if a man and a woman are together, somebody got to be in the driver's seat, somebody got to get in the passenger seat. A car can have 20 passengers, 1 driver. A Greyhound bus got 1 steering wheel. The only vehicle that might have more than 1 steering wheel, maybe an airplane. I don't know anything about flying, but let's just stick to cars. A bus, a van, a 2-seater, they all got 1 driver's seat and 1 steering wheel, which means as a man, when you're with a woman, somebody's driving and somebody's a passenger. Which one are you? Are you following behind the woman so that you can get her approval and support? Doesn't mean you can't agree with a woman. Doesn't mean a woman can't make a solid point. Doesn't mean you can't fall back sometimes and let the woman step forward and say what she wants to say. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying it's always like this 100% of the time. But generally speaking, there is 1 leader and there is 1 person who's in the subordinate position. There's someone in the A spot, there's someone in the B spot. Malcolm X said this in his autobiography. Every organization must have a boss. Even if it's just you by yourself, you got to be the boss of yourself. If it's 2 or more people, there must be a clear leader. Who is the leader in this organization? Who's wearing the pants in the relationship and who's the bitch in the relationship? And when I say the bitch, I don't mean in a negative way, a pejorative way, but I often hear, not often, but I've heard gay people talk about this. Like, who's the bitch in the relationship? All right, there's 2 girls together or 2 guys together. One person has to be the bitch. Who is it? Who's in charge? Who's in the number 1 spot? And men, you need to ask yourself this. Are you following behind the woman's lead or is she following your lead? Kevin Samuels talked about this. Rest in peace to Kevin Samuels. He passed away about 3 years ago. And he would talk about this, that we had these women come on his show and they all talked about wanting this man who was basically, he defined as the high value man. I did a series, 2-part series on my podcast about the whole concept of the high value man. And one of the things that Kevin Samuels said was that the high value man is looking for a woman who's going to get on his program. He's not getting on your program. You get on his program. And the type of men that the women who came on Mr. Samuels' show were describing were the type of men that Kevin Samuels kept telling them, you got to get on his program. He's not getting on yours. You got to get on his. Are you ready to get on his program? Are you ready to submit to a man and be on his program? Submit does not mean barefoot in the kitchen necessarily. Submit means you understand that he's in the driver's seat and you are in the passenger seat. And there is no equivocation about this. Do you understand that and do you accept it? And that's what it means to be in the number one spot and the number two spot. And what's happening is a lot of men are afraid to say what I just said out loud in front of a woman. I'll take another sip of water while y'all process that. A lot of men in society, especially black men, I don't think white men had this problem. I'm not white. But I think a lot of black men have a problem saying this out loud. That, listen, there's a car here. I'm driving. You in the passenger seat. That's what it is. Doesn't mean she doesn't know how to drive. Doesn't mean she can't drive when you're off doing something else. Doesn't mean she can't take the car out for a spin herself when she feels like it. But if we're both in the car, I'm driving, you in the passenger seat. Metaphorically speaking. Maybe even literally. Personally, I don't like being in the passenger seat, nobody's car, honestly. But y'all get, I'm talking metaphorically here. A lot of black men are afraid to say out loud to a black woman, I'm driving, you in the passenger seat. All right, play your position. And Ryan Clark, I don't know, but I'm thinking when he's talking the way that he's talking, I'm not sure he is willing to say that to his wife. I don't know. But again, since he brought up his wife in the conversation, I'm not talking about his wife, the person. I'm just saying if he had a wife, I didn't even know what she looked like. I would say, okay, is he the kind of guy who would say that given what he just said? Even let's say he was single. All right, if you had a woman in your life, would you say that? Given what you just said, given what he just said in that frame, I don't think he would say it. Now, in a different frame, maybe he would. Again, I don't know enough about the guy. And when we put race into this conversation, it becomes an even more triggering thing for a lot of black people. They get so excited around this whole concept of race. So there's this dangerous culture in the black community that celebrates when black people attack other black people for, and I see this all the time. People say, well, you're just trying to appease white people, or you're just trying to appease MAGA, or you're trying to appease Trump supporters, or you're still black, or they're never going to accept you. These are kind of same tropes people keep saying over and over again. Or you're trying to, you're tap dancing, you're Uncle Tom, coon, et cetera, et cetera. All these terms that black people throw out there when they disagree with another black person. Instead of actually addressing their point or saying, what is your actual disagreement? They instead resort to name calling and pejoratives. Again, this is childish, what you all already know. Some of these are not even real people. There's a lot of bots running around on social media these days, but some of them are real people. And this is the way that they really think. And if they're men, then we have a serious problem. And we already got a serious problem because people don't know how to control their emotions. And those emotions start in the pit of the stomach. They travel up to the brain. Then they come straight out of either their mouth or your fingers. And you say this dumb shit. Now, these same folks who cheered Clark, some say, they would be mad if it went the other way. Like, so let's say if the races were reversed and the black girl fouled the white girl, they would be mad that the black girl fouled the white girl. Well, it depends. I think it depends on how they got fouled, because Caitlin Clark took a couple of hard shots last year in the WNBA and got fouled hard. And it looked like people were trying to do certain shit on purpose, but it got papered over. Why? Because we don't want to go too hard on black people. WNBA, by the way, while we're on the subject, the WNBA is finally, after 30 years of doing a whole bunch of nothing in terms of attention, in terms of business wise, it's starting to look like they might be turning the corner. And you have the people who defend the WNBA. Well, the NBA took all this time to start making money. WNBA needs to get the same thing. No, they don't. Just because men got it does not mean women deserve it. That's a bullshit argument. But let's just say it's true. The women deserve this much time too. The WNBA is still losing money. Last year they started giving chartered private planes for every team in the WNBA, even though the league was still losing money. Doesn't make any sense. Why'd they do it? Because the players, the women, and their fans complain that the players are not safe when they have to fly a commercial. How many of you feel in danger when you fly a commercial? All right, nobody does. So it's the safest place you could be is on a damn airplane inside an airport in the United States of America. It's one of the safest places you could be is inside of an airport or inside of an airplane. But the women, all of a sudden, they feel threatened, so now we got to give them private planes. All right, this is bullshit. All it was them looking on the plate of the men and saying the men got all this, we should have at least some of it. That's the reason why they did it. And the WNBA capitulated to this bullshit. And Now, even with all of that, it looks like the WNBA might finally start getting to the point of they're actually making money. Those of you who don't know, for 30 years, the WNBA has never made money. WNBA has never turned a profit in 30 years. They make revenue. They have made a profit. They lose money every year. And it's looking like they might be starting to turn the corner. We don't know. We'll see. We need year-over-year trends to really find out. So let's see this year. And the WNBA is making the mistake of leaning into this racial protectionism bullshit, because after Angel Reese, the black girl, missed a free throw in the game the other day, there were, of course, this is a road game, so they're playing in Indiana, where the white girl plays. The black girl misses a free throw, and the crowd is cheering that she missed the free throw. And allegedly, the WNBA is investigating whether someone was making some racist sound, whatever the hell that means, or a racist remark towards Reese during the game. Mind you, they're in an arena with like 20,000 people in it. How the hell are they going to investigate that, number one? Number two, how would they know who did it if they find anything? And number three, even if they find something, what the hell are you going to do? What are you going to do? They're going to make a rule that if this sound gets heard by any of our speaker system, what are they going to do? Call technical foul? What exactly are you going to do? WNBA is looking stupid right now because they're taking themselves deeper into a hole that they can't get out of. They're allegedly doing an investigation. Again, what are you investigating? Number two, what are you looking to find? Number three, even if you find something, what is your plan? What's your action step after you find whatever the hell it is that you're allegedly investigating and looking for? They don't have an answer to this, and this is why they're looking stupid. The problem with this is, the reason why I'm pointing it out, because their business, they want to be dumb, be dumb. The reason why I'm pointing this out is because the advocates of the WNBA are saying that they're finally on the way to possibly making money. But the more you do this stupid shit, you are turning off your fans, and even the new fans, people who are casuals and coming in and paying attention. They're looking at this like, why are y'all leaning into this race shit? And y'all, all of you need to understand that the thing that makes something blow up and become super popular is the casual fan, not the diehard fan. So whenever I get on X and I start getting into conversations about the WNBA, I will get people saying stuff like, yo, you don't even watch the games. You're not even a big fan. You're not a diehard. You weren't watching 2 years ago or 3 years ago. You only start paying attention or talking about it when Clark came around. They'll say stuff like that to anybody, because the people who have been fans since before it blew up, they are like proprietary about their baby, the WNBA. And I say, well, you're damn right, because nobody gave a damn 10 years ago. Nobody cared about the WNBA 10 years ago. When I say nobody, I mean the masses of people did not care. Nowadays, because Clark came in and because you have this storyline of the black girl against the white girl, you got a bunch of casuals coming and noticing the WNBA. Those of you who are fans of the WNBA and you want to see the league succeed, let me let you in on the secret. You need the casuals. If you don't have casuals, this league is going to go under. It's already underwater. It's not going to go out of business because the NBA is just going to keep propping it up. By the way, the WNBA gets its money from the NBA, in case any of you didn't know. So any of you want to know why aren't NBA players speaking up to defend the WNBA? They already are, because there's money coming out of the NBA's pocket that allows the WNBA to even exist. So every NBA player is already supporting the WNBA by being in the NBA, because the NBA is taking money out of their bank account and giving it to the WNBA, who was already underwater and not making money. Anyway, I digress. The casuals who are coming to finally notice the WNBA, the last thing you want to do is give them something that turns them off, such as, oh, well, we're investigating because somebody might have made a sound that offends a black person at a basketball game with 20,000 people in the arena. That's stupid. You're turning off the very casual fans that you need for the thing to explode. The thing that makes something explode is casual fans. If you don't have casual fans, you cannot become mainstream. WNBA has a chance to go mainstream because Caitlin Clark, the white girl, has brought a ton of casual eyeballs to the WNBA product. That's what happened. That's why the WNBA is starting to get more attention. Not because of Angel Reese. They're getting attention because Caitlin Clark on the court and this black versus white thing off the court. That's the reason why WNBA is getting noticed. Not because of Miss Wilson, who plays in Vegas, who is basically everyone agrees is the best player in the league. She was already the best player in the league. Nobody gave a damn. People still don't give a damn. What people care about is what is attention grabbing for them. And a casual fan is not some hardcore basketball person, analyst. They don't care about this player who's really, really good. Tim Duncan was really good. Did he draw a ton of attention? No. It's what are the things that cause a casual fan to be interested? And that's the things that I just told you. The WNBA leaning into this race thing or protecting black females at all costs, this is not working because a bunch of the casual fans are white people. In case any of you didn't know, The casual fans are white people. Anything that goes mainstream, ladies and gentlemen, you got to get the casual, non-diehard white people to give a damn about it, period, in any aspect, especially when it comes to entertainment and sports. If you can't get casual white people to notice or pay attention, you can't go mainstream. Just selling to black people ain't enough. Ain't enough black people. Aren't enough. Tyler Perry was making movies for a long time. Y'all know Tyler Perry, right? He's making those Madea movies for a long time. He used to do plays. So Madea, they would do a play. It'd be at a theater, and there'd be a whole set, and the Madea be running around doing things. And Madea is Tyler Perry, and running around doing all this stuff for black audiences. And Tyler Perry was very popular amongst black people. Nobody knew who the hell Tyler Perry was until he went mainstream. He went Hollywood, and he got Hollywood, i.e., casual white people, to pay attention to him, and that's when he blew up. WNBA, same thing. The reason the NBA is popular is because people who are not diehard basketball fans give a damn. That's why the NBA is popular. The reason the WNBA is not popular is because non-diehard casual white people generally have not given a damn. But this woman, Caitlin Clark, is making them give a damn. And the WNBA is poisoning the whole situation by trying to pander to black females when their most popular player and the one who is bringing all the attention is a white girl from the middle of the country. They're shooting themselves in the foot is what they're doing. And they're doing it every day. So this whole concept, okay, of black people getting happy because Ryan Clark, a black former football player, attacking RG3, a black former football player, getting excited. Why y'all getting excited about two black people going at each other? I thought the whole thing was we got to uplift black people and bring black people up. And then black people say, well, we got to attack the guy who's not with us, and he's not going to, quote unquote, not like us. Everybody's using that term now after the Kendrick Lamar song. Well, here's a news flash I have for black Americans who are listening to this. Ain't enough black people to divide amongst the group. Ain't enough black people. All right, we ain't got it. It ain't enough of all of us put together to start dividing and keeping certain people out just because you don't like them. Excluding. Ain't no black people. We're about, 12% of the population being overtaken by Latins. We already down only 20% of white people. So now you want to divide black people? All right, it ain't going to be enough black people. What we going to do, dividing the group that we're already too small. If it's supposed to be about black against white, we already are down the numbers. Now you want to divide the numbers even further? All right, what are you doing? You should not be happy when two black people are going at each other if your whole thing is race. My whole thing is not race. But if your whole thing is race and racial solidarity and you're all excited about anything that has to do with black people, why are you happy when one black man is attacking another black man on the basis of his choice for a spouse? Why are you happy about that? Because all that's doing is further dividing black people. Where you going? You can't replace them. Where they coming from? Where's more black people coming from? We ain't got none. So why is anybody getting excited about this? It doesn't make any sense. That is not pro-black. That's performative tribalism. And is wrapped in, I don't know, you could decide for yourself what is wrapped in. And what Ryan Clark was trying to say is that you don't have to put down a black woman to talk up a white woman. Again, I never heard RG3 say anything negative about black women. All I heard him say was talk up his white woman. If that's what he wants to do, then fine, let him do it. He didn't say anything negative. Talking up one thing does not mean you're saying something negative about the other thing. If I say I love Coca-Cola, it doesn't mean I'm trashing Pepsi or vice versa. I didn't say anything about Pepsi. I just said I love Coca-Cola. So how is, again, Ryan Clark is just making up this boogeyman, this straw man, just so he can beat it up, so he can feel like he's high and mighty and get the round of applause from a bunch of low-level black people who get excited over race when logically, again, makes no sense. But again, when you get people emotional, logic doesn't matter. And who you are with, who you're friends with, where you work, et cetera, that does not disqualify your perspective. Your actual points will qualify or disqualify your perspective. You don't have to be doing a certain thing to have a qualified perspective or opinion on the thing. Same way that we had the virus a few years ago. Somebody said, hey, I don't want to take the jab. And then somebody else said, well, are you a doctor? Do you have a medical degree? Who are you to say that you're not going to take the jab? What, mofo? I'm not taking the jab. I don't have to be a doctor to say I don't want to put a foreign object inside my body that does not naturally occur there. I don't need to have a doctorate in order to make that decision. And you, because you want to take it, you don't need to have a doctorate to decide to take it. But they say, you should listen to the experts. Okay, do you listen to experts on every single thing that you do in life? And who are these experts? And didn't we find out during that virus a few years ago, just because someone's an expert does not mean they're telling you the truth that is in your best interest? I think we found that out. So anybody who didn't know that before the virus, you should not still be using that false frame to this day. Doesn't mean you can't listen to an expert. Doesn't mean that someone who's an expert does not have some useful information that you could take into consideration. But it does mean you should not blindly listen to someone just because of their status or their position. Just because someone has a status does not necessarily mean that they are accurate in terms of what matters for you in a certain situation. It's kind of like with basketball, for example. You get people saying, well, you never played basketball, so you're not allowed to talk about it. Well, if that's the frame we're using, then most of the people who talk basketball shouldn't be talking. Most of the people talking football shouldn't be talking. Ryan Clark and RG3 shouldn't be talking about the WNBA because they played football, not basketball. And that's the frame that we're using. If the frame is you need to be an expert to talk about a thing, why are two football playing men talking about women's basketball? They're unqualified. So people tend to use this. They use this frame only when it's convenient for them. That's basically what they do. They say, well, this person didn't play, so they shouldn't talk about it. But if that same person had an opinion that you agree with, then you would co-sign it. Again, this is the lack of logic that most human beings operate with on a day-to-day basis. But many people stuck to races and identity, such as black people, and you're using your connection or your race as a weapon anytime you're using it as a weapon to attack somebody anytime they step outside of the script that you have ascribed to them or prescribed for them. This is nonsense. Ryan Clark, again, out of bounds, just making it about black and white, first of all, and then bringing a wife into it was even worse. Making it about black and white is race hustling, which we can make fun of and make light of. But bringing up his wife is completely out of bounds. This is just a complete violation of man code. And again, if he has any masculine men around him, they should check him on that. And he keeps going on social media talking about it. He needs to go on social media and take ownership of that. Let me see if I can find something that he said. Because Ryan Clark, by the way, I should mention this. Ryan Clark has me blocked on social media. As y'all can see right here, I'm blocked by Ryan Clark on X. I don't know what I said to this guy or about this guy. And this was before. This is not this situation. But he's had me blocked on social media. It's been some time since I've been blocked by this guy on social media. Probably because I pointed out his race hustling at some point. I don't know what exactly I said that led to this. But anyway, that happened. I'm trying to find his response because he did make a response to the response let me see if I can find it. Maybe a day or two ago. NFL Live. No, not that. Not that. And he's giving credit to God and thanking God for stuff. And I don't like people just using God only when it serves them. Anyway, we ain't going to talk about that, at least not now. No, not that. Okay. So this is what Ryan Clark said about RG3. He said, bruh, you know what it is between me and you. I saved you the entire season on Monday Night Football. I urge people to let you be you. No matter how corny, how bad a teammate you were, I had your back. What did you do? Invite someone on your show who you know I don't fool with to ask questions about me and then hit me weeks later to tell me you're going to challenge one of my takes. You're a phony, bro. One of the worst teammates I ever had, both on the field and in TV. You got to do what you got to do. All that being said, let's pause right there. This is the reason why Ryan Clark attacked RG3. Not because, notice he didn't say anything about Angel Reese or Caitlin Clark. He didn't say anything about them. This is his response to Robert Griffin's response. So Robert Griffin's response was this long post he put on X, as y'all can see. Very long post. And then he made a video basically saying you're out of bounds by talking about my wife. Ryan Clark's response to that was this paragraph that I just read. Notice nothing in this paragraph. And let me read the second paragraph. There's only two paragraphs. He said, I didn't attack your wife. I spoke on what you do on social media and TV. Like I said, I met your wife and she seemed like a lovely lady that was worth more than the color of her skin. You be good, bruh, period. That was the whole response that Ryan Clark had to RG3's response. Let me ask you, where in here he say anything about Angel Reese or Caitlin Clark? Notice he didn't mention either one of them. Ain't that what this whole conversation is supposed to be about? Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark? This is feminine male energy. In case any of you didn't know what it meant, whenever you hear me say that phrase, this is what I mean. This is feminine male energy. Ryan Clark clearly does not like Robert Griffin III. That's okay. Men don't have to like each other. And if he had an issue with Robert Griffin III, he should have just made a video and said, hey, here's why I don't fuck with Robert Griffin III. And then just lay out your point. And then he could have said all this. I would have said, okay, he don't like him. I don't give a fuck about either one of these people. I would have kept moving. We wouldn't be talking about this today if that's what he said. Instead, he used a pretext of Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark as an excuse to let out his negative energy about another man and use that as an excuse for why he was going to say it. When if he was being a man about it and having some balls about it, he would have said, yo, I just don't mess with you, period. I don't care about Angel Reese or Caitlin Clark. I just don't mess with you, and I'm going to tell you why I don't mess with you. And he wouldn't even made it seem like he was responding to the topic at hand. The topic at hand was the WNBA. Notice there's nothing in this about the WNBA. All of it is about the other man. Why I don't like you as a man. So he's basically explaining Robert Griffin III. Again, look at this. Robert Griffin III says, yo, you out of bounds talking about my wife and my family. I talked about Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark. You talking about my wife and my family. You're out of bounds. Ryan Clark's response to that is telling Robert Griffin III why he doesn't like him personally. What happened to the topic, Ryan Clark? This is feminine energy. So any of you want to know what it looks like, I just gave you a masterclass in what feminine energy looks like. This is it, Ryan Clark. You got an issue with a man, just address him directly. Don't come up with an excuse. Just say it directly. See, that's what women do. And again, I'm not knocking the females who are in here, but this is what women do. Any of you men in the room who are listening to me right now, tell me you ever had this happen, that you get in an argument with a woman and 10 minutes into the argument, she starts talking about shit that ain't got nothing to do with what you're arguing about. And she just starts trashing anything and everything about you that she's been holding in. She's been waiting for the opportunity to use it. And now that she's mad at you, she starts throwing the kitchen sink at you, some shit that ain't got nothing to do with the topic. Why? Just because she's mad right there in the moment. This is what females do. And I'm not knocking the women who are here in the room. I'm just helping you understand that's what a woman does. Men don't do that shit. Man, if I got a problem with you as a man, I'm going to address you as a man, and we're just going to talk about the topic. I'm going to talk about the fact that I got a problem with you, and we're going to talk about that topic. That's it. That's all we're talking about is just this topic right here that's on the table. If I got another issue over here, that's a different conversation. But we're not going to refresh on Rome. I'm not going to use that as an excuse to bash you on things that have nothing to do with what we're talking about right now in the moment. So now I hope everybody understands why I'm telling you that Ryan Clark's out of bounds in more ways than one. When you have no substance, because the conversation is about basketball, right? Let's not forget. When you have no substance, race is your emergency exit. This is what black people do. Black people have used race as an emergency exit for the last about 10 years. This is why I call them race hustlers. Race hustlers do this. Anytime they don't have any substantial thing to add to the conversation, they turn the conversation into something about race and make it a referendum on race when it had nothing to do with race in the first place. RG3 made a comment about basketball. It just happened to involve a black person and a white person. Ryan Clark turned it into a race discussion and tried to use RG3's choice of a spouse as an excuse to attack the man instead of attacking the point. This is where he's wrong. But all that said, this works for him because a lot of people are going to get excited about this. Actually, already got excited about it. I'm talking about it because any racial topic gets people excited these days. That's what it is. He took the personal route because the race crowd would cheer louder than the logic crowd. And that's 100% true. If you want to make a point and get a whole bunch of attention, make it about race somehow, some way, even if you have to twist yourself into a pretzel to do it, go ahead and do it. So I'll take a few questions here. I normally would take a bathroom break on days like this, but I went almost this entire 2 hours without it. So let's just take questions and comments. I had to refresh on Rumble Studio. So the live comments on YouTube, I fucking lost the comments. So I don't know why this keeps happening. On Rumble Studio, sometimes the page refreshes, so I lost the comment. So if you left the comment on YouTube, I'm sorry. I can't see it. Let me go back over on Instagram, then we'll get over to TikTok. And I lost all the comments from the first TikTok before I got suspended. So I think our comments section will be condensed today. XYT said, Caitlin Clark or Angel Reese? Now, why do I have to pick between the two of them? If you're asking just basketball skill, then the answer is obviously Caitlin Clark. Angel Reese can't even make a layup. But she has her value to the team. I mean, not everybody needs to score all the points. Now, she needs somebody who can score some points so she can stop taking all the shots. That's what they need to do over on that team that she's on. So Irma said, I didn't think you said anything. I didn't. It was just some haters in the comments. So we'll just call them haters because they flagged me for hate speech, so we'll call them haters. China said, I didn't hear anything hateful, but TikTok and sensitive. It wasn't TikTok, though. It was the people on TikTok. Rodney Thornhill said, I give up on TikTok. Yeah, it wasn't TikTok, folks. It was the people on TikTok. And then it was TikTok. I guess they had to agree because people kept throwing that bullshit out. McDoes 18, appreciate you. Crespo said, in general, leaders have to have thick skin. If not, people will eat you up alive. LOL. Yeah, exactly. Crespo said, I appreciate you explaining about the need for two parents. Well said. Well, I appreciate you. Glad to see you here, as usual. So All right, let's see what we can get to on TikTok. I'll get to a few of these comments and then we'll wrap this up, folks. So, in case anybody doesn't know, I got suspended again. That was time number 12 that I'm suspended on TikTok because of most of the time the suspensions are people just not liking what I'm saying. So they basically reported my live stream and got me suspended. Was interrupted the flow, but didn't stop me because we came right back literally 7 minutes later. Repentant Heart said, I believe you, no need to explain. Well, I had to explain it because I want people to understand what's happening, not because I'm like worried that you're concerned that I've had a 7-minute gap, but I want you to understand that certain topics and certain people hearing certain topics leads to certain kind of backlash. Courtney, good morning. Good to see you. China H, thanks for jumping back in. Morgan said you were talking about Ryan Clark. Say, oh yeah, yes, that's what I was talking about. Thank you. Well, Heck said you get suspended, yet others on TikTok threaten you off Trump, and that stays. It depends on what you're talking about. It's all subjective here. Lee and Lisa said, I don't know who Ryan Clark is or RG3. Well, yeah, you don't have to know who they are. That's the good thing about my approach. You don't have to know who these people are. I'll give you some context, but the context is not really about them. It's about why it's a topic. The topic here today really is about masculine energy. It's about men staying in their masculine and not turning into bitches when they hear something that they disagree with. And again, you can disagree all you want. Just disagree like a man, not like a woman or a child. RG3, Baby said RG3 was talking and his wife was in the background saying amen. Yeah, I know. A lot of people said that. And my response to that is, so what? All right. He was talking about Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark, right? He wasn't talking about, hey, my wife. Hey, everybody give me a comment on my wife. What do you think about my wife? That's not what he said. And Ryan Clark said, I think your wife is a fine and wonderful person. Ryan Clark attacked his choice of a wife as a way of poisoning the well and discrediting RG3 as a man. And if you want to discredit someone as a man, you can, but don't use their woman or their children as a way of doing it. You don't do that. That's just a man rule, period. I don't care if they were doing a podcast together. If the man is doing all the talking, I don't care if his wife was sitting in the foreground, sitting right next to him on his lap while he was saying it. You don't address another man's woman. You don't talk about another man's woman if your issue is with the man, period. Now, if the woman says some shit about Ryan Clark, then you address the woman because she says something about you. She says your name. But if the woman didn't say your name and didn't say anything to you and didn't say anything about you, even if she was sitting there co-signing every single thing the man said and the man was trashing you, you address the man. That's what men do. Men address men. You do not address another man's woman. There are no exceptions to this, and there's no explanation that makes it okay. Any of you who was raised by a man should know better. So I see somebody got Sean Combs. It said, facts, I tell everyone this. What's up, Sean Combs? Good to see you got access to TikTok while you're incarcerated. Actually, Sean, you should be in court right now. Ms. Liz 24 said, you're correct. Thank you. You just said you're live and offline now, not loading. Is anyone else getting this problem? Yeah, it probably got slow again, maybe because more people are using the platform right now. Southern Common Sense said, you're speaking hard truths. Yes, and these are things that for men, these are things that your dad's supposed to teach you. Donnie X said, I totally agree with this, brother. 100% he just said, appreciate you. Me and Lisa said, all children need two parents no matter the color. That's correct. Well, two parents at home is how I see it. Not just two parents. Everybody got two parents, technically. But you need two parents at home so that you can learn from both sides. You need to learn the female side and you need to learn the man side, the male side. Pizza Man said, not only blacks, my community too. Yes, every community. I'm speaking about the black community because I'm black. And because this whole conversation was made because of black and black. Kevin says, some narrow-minded people judge others based on their race. Well, a lot of people do. A lot of people do that. Juana Perkins said he actually complimented her. No, he gave, that's the corporate compliment, Juana Perkins. What Ryan Clark said about her, he said, I believe she's a lovely woman. Or what is he really saying? Is that really a compliment? You say, I think she's a lovely woman. No, that's a yes, but he was using that as a kind of a shield, a verbal shield. Well, I think she's a lovely woman, but let me attack you because you chose her. So please. So first he said, I believe she's a lovely woman. Then he attacked the same man for choosing that lovely woman. So how is that a compliment? It's a backhanded compliment is what we call that. Or it's a invalidated compliment. It's like saying, hey, you're doing a good job. You're doing a good job working here at this office. But now let me tell you the 12 things you're doing wrong. Well, everything that you said before the but is invalidated. As soon as you put but, everything said before that is invalidated. Any of you who's ever gotten leadership training, you know this. Pizza Man said, we would be best friends, critical thinkers. All right, well, we could be best friends through TikTok. That one dude said, can you say that slower, please? Are you saying inner feminine? No, feminine energy, not inner feminine, feminine energy. Two different words. When a man is in his feminine energy, he starts behaving like a female, but he's still in the body of a man. That's what makes it more dangerous. Traditional, thanks for telling people to hit the likes. We're not even going to go off the likes numbers here today. We had 16,000. Maybe we can get to 20 while we're still here. We said the personal attacks are prevalent on TikTok every single day. Yes, the internet, I don't count the internet because on the internet, you never know who you're talking to. Like for many of you who are on here, I don't know who you are. I never met most of you in person. Maybe we'll never meet many of you in person. Maybe one day I'll have a TikTok meetup. One day I'll do a TikTok meetup somewhere. But the point is RG3 and Ryan Clark actually know each other. They met in person before. So someone who I met in person is saying something to me on the internet. That's different than some random person who I don't know who they are saying something, positive or negative. So that's why Ryan Clark's out of bounds, because he's talking about that man's wife and he's actually met his wife. That's what makes it crazy. Now, he didn't know him. They're just two dudes talking shit on the internet. It wouldn't be the same level of seriousness than if you actually met her and now you're still speaking on shit you shouldn't be speaking on. Angelica said, I wish they knew that was a turn off to women. Well, they would know if their fathers had raised them properly. That's the problem. Kevin said, narrow-mindedness can manifest in many ways, not just racial prejudice. Yeah, that's true. Focusing on specific behaviors and cause a lot for more nuance. Yeah, also true. Georgia, good morning. Glenda said, you won't hear not informed on Ryan Clark, so don't talk about him. You are so educated. How about Google? What I got wrong, Glenda? So this is, Glenda, I will give you grace for saying what you're saying because it appears that you're a female. Now, if you were a man saying this, then I would go harder on you. But since you're a female, I'm going to give you some grace and ask you, what did I get wrong? User said, cars have 2 steering wheels, driver's education training car, LOL. I never been on one of those. Boston Bull said, bro, spot on. You nailed it. Simps will simp for attention. Yes, they will, and for connection. Angelica said, oh, why no men that are led around by the nose? Yes, exactly. I mean, that's the reason. Ali said, how about a man be worth following? Exactly. And this is what I've been talking about this a lot on my podcast. I got a show called Work on Your Game. Y'all can find it every day on Apple, Spotify, etc. I've been talking about this, that a lot of men need to step their game up. And one of the reasons why society is collapsing is because a lot of men are not doing their jobs as men. And that creates a vacuum. And when there's a vacuum in the universe, somebody's going to fill that vacuum. And we only got men and women. So women said, okay, I'm going to fill the vacuum. If y'all ain't going to do it, we'll do it. So my show is called Work on Your Game. Looks like this is Spotify. Comes out every single day. It's also on Apple. It's free of charge. It's called Work on Your Game. Every episode is about 20 to 30 minutes long, and it's a solo show. So it doesn't go as long as these live streams. Britt says, I'll gladly be a passenger princess. See, this is the type of a woman who has that mindset. This is what a masculine man is looking for. A feminine man is not looking for that. A feminine man is looking for a woman to lead him, whereas a masculine man is looking for a woman to follow him. And again, sometimes men can dip in and out. So again, I don't know Ryan Clark personally, but Ryan Clark seems to be right now, he's framing himself as following the woman. I don't think he thinks that, but that's what he's doing. And I've explained it. But a man who's in his masculine wants a woman who is happy to be a passenger. She knows that she's a passenger and she accepts her role as a passenger. In sports, for example, everybody has to know their role. On a sports team, the star knows that they're the star. The number 2 person knows they're number 2. The person at the end of the bench who doesn't play, they know they're not going to play. And everybody accepts their role. Anytime you have a team where someone doesn't accept their role, you got a star who doesn't want to be the star and they don't want to do their duty. Or you got the person at the end of the bench who thinks they should be the star and people are mad because they're not in the role that they want to be in. That team's going to fail even if they have a whole lot of talent. Same thing with a relationship. If you got a man and a woman both trying to be in the driver's seat, you're going to have a problem. And if you got a man and a woman both trying to be in the passenger seat, you're going to have a problem. That's why the natural role of a man is to lead. The natural role of a woman is to follow. And when everybody's playing their natural role, that's the way it goes. The challenge in the Black community is that this natural way of going has been disrupted by a lot of things. specifically media. And secondly, people just being, media has been one way that has happened. Another way is just men just deciding not to do their jobs, because the job of a man is not easy, but it's also not something to bitch about. I mean, this is what the trade-off of being a man and being in charge and being in that leadership position and getting the chance to run society and build societies. You get all those benefits that you'll hear feminists talk about, but the trade-off of those benefits is that you are responsible for all those things that you get. And that responsibility can be a heavy burden on you when it's not working the way it's supposed to be working. But that's what makes a man, is the fact that you still show up and do it even when it ain't going the way you want it to go. Fit Business said, South Beach, Brickell, or Edgewater, Miami to live. Well, Fit Business, it depends. What's your life situation right now? What's your age? Are you single, married? You have kids? And what are you looking for? Based on those answers, I can give you an accurate assessment. But all of those places ain't for the same things. I've lived in all of them, so they not all for the same things. Traditional says, so many women are wearing the pants. Yes, they are. And again, if I was a woman, then I would hold women a little bit more to account here in what I'm talking about. But since I'm a man, I'm specifically addressing the men. Georgia, I appreciate you. And I'm addressing the men because the man's role is to lead, period. Regardless of the situation, circumstance, details, the man's role is to lead. So anytime a community or a society is faltering, the first thing I'm looking at is the man. The same way that if a business is faltering, first thing we look at is the CEO. We don't look at the maintenance man. We look at the middle managers. We don't look at the secretary, even though they might all be fucking up. The maintenance man might be screwing up. The secretary's not doing her job. The middle management is trash, but they're not the leaders. I got to look at the leadership. Anytime a company's failing, the first thing I'm looking at is the leadership. I'm looking at the C-suite. Show me the CEO, show me the CFO, show me the CMO, show me the COO. Those are people we're looking at. And if somebody gets fired, we firing them first. Then we fire everybody else. You always start at the top. Lee and Lisa said, a lot of men have a problem being a leader, period. I agree. That's because they weren't taught properly. And this is the reason why I did an episode. I don't think it came out yet. Actually, I think it did. It did come out. I talked about the red pill community. I talked about the pros and cons of the red pill community. One of the pros of the red pill community is that it's a bunch of men talking to other men about stepping into your masculine frame. Now, maybe some people think they're going a little bit too far in the masculine frame, but is their aim to teach men how to step into and stay in their masculine? The answer is hell yes. And that is needed. And if there was anyone doing it in a better way, or if there were more options of people doing it in a better way, then the red pill community would not be needed. But it's needed because a lot of men don't know how to be men because they weren't taught properly at home. So now they go on the internet and now they're listening to these red pill men who you might not like their approach, but they are giving men at least the parts that are useful. They're giving men stuff that actually are useful to them. So, for example, the bald-headed guy who lives in Romania or wherever he lives, and he got suspended off all social media. That guy whose name I can't say, TATE, that guy. He's one of the people who gets a lot of credit, so to speak, for the red pill, but he doesn't even consider himself red pill. But the things that he talks about when he's talking about masculinity and discipline and determination and showing up and doing your job, I 100% concur with the things that he says. Now, people attack him because allegedly he assaulted some women and these court cases that allegedly are going to happen. They keep saying they're going to happen, and I haven't seen them happen yet. We'll see. People attack him because of that. Well, I didn't hear him on those things. When I heard about him, he was talking about discipline, showing up, doing your job, getting your money right, get in shape, be a man, do your job, stop bitching, own your shit, be mentally tough, be disciplined. Basically the same shit that I talk about, he was talking about. And I'm 100% on the same page. Now, again, you may not like that guy, but is he talking about masculinity in a way that men need to hear it? The answer is yes, he is. And if men were doing their jobs at home, then there'd be no need for anybody going on the internet and find it because they would have already known it. So, user said, facts as normal. That's right. Person said, I wish my teenage sons could have heard you say this. Well, they can, person 123. All you got to do is go to the link in my profile. There's my YouTube channel. And the replay of this entire stream is on YouTube. So have your sons listen to the whole thing. Britt said, I think it's white man too. My husband drives 100% of the time. Yes, and I'm not white, but I would say that in the black community, there's a lot of men who have been, just infantilized, for lack of a better term. I think I'm mispronouncing it, but being infantilized as they look at themselves still as children rather than as a man. Now, I don't know enough about what happens in a relationship that you're talking about here, Britt, but it makes perfect sense based on what I said. User said, so true, I did to mine always. Yes. Jason said, Ryan Clark definitely crossed the line. No, of course he did. Britt said, say it again. What is your actual disagreement? Yeah, well, he didn't have one. He did. Actually, I do think he had a disagreement, but he didn't even get to it because the thing that he talked about the wife choice superseded everything else that he said. Nobody even cared about the rest of it. Britt said, wouldn't it be based off higher revenue made, higher rev, higher budget? What are you referring to? I don't know what you're responding to. Traditional said they sure. Oh, you're talking about the WNBA? Yes, it could be based off the revenue made, but you got to make enough revenue to offset your costs. So the problem for WNBA is that they just took on another cost of giving everybody a plane. The league paid for it, and they got to pay that bill. So now their revenue, even if it goes up, they still are in the red because they just took on an extra expense. So if you aren't making a profit yet and your revenue is going up, the worst thing you can do is add expenses because now you're still going to be without a profit. Any normal business goes out of business after so long of doing that. There's only so long you can keep not making money. Butterfly Howard, good morning to you. Britt said that's a technical foul. Adam Sandler voice. Yes, exactly. Irina said, why is everything always about race? Because race gets people excited, Irina. That's what it is. Georgia said, that was wild about Angel Reese. What part? Bill Stanley said, no NBA player literally had money taken out of their account for the WNBA. I said the league, Bill. The league, the NBA finances the WNBA. So what I'm doing is drawing a metaphor in case, I know you're addressing it literally, so I'm assuming you disagree. So this is what people do. They try to take apart what I'm saying literally when I'm making a metaphorical point. I think you understand my metaphor, Bill, which is NBA, the NBA, finances the WNBA, and the NBA has money because the players in the NBA go out and play in games. So they don't have to say anything to support the WNBA. Their very presence playing in their league supports the WNBA because if there was no NBA, there would be no WNBA because the WNBA would have gone out of business in 5 years. Well, Heck said, I love Timmy Duncan. Yeah, Duncan was great. Live Free said, black people aren't going to give up their summers for women's basketball. Well, maybe. Bill said, maybe WNBA players shouldn't be allowed to date. Well, I don't think you can stop them. They dating each other, a whole lot of them. And I'm not joking. A bunch of WNBA players are dating each other. Jenna said, people don't want to go where they are hated. So it makes sense if we are hating on them, why not there? I love your discussion, mixing between simple conversation and educated jargon. Thanks. You're welcome. Let's see. Vince said, Africa doing it now. Yeah, we talked about that a few days ago. Rock said he uplifted RG3 by explaining what he is doing to our sisters. Rock Candy says that. Rock Candy, I hope you're joking. No, he didn't uplift anybody. He attacked him and used his wife as a weapon to attack him with. He used his wife and his choice of a wife to discredit his position on any conversation. So I'm assuming you're joking. T-Baby said, let that man enjoy his glass of milk. It seems like he is. I mean, he keep posting about it. Serenity said, RG3 wife is his co-host and was part of the combo. He didn't disrespect her. She is not who Ryan Clark attacked. Ryan Clark attacked RG3 and said, you have a white wife, therefore you can't talk about anything that involves black women. That is a non sequitur. It doesn't matter if his wife is a co-host. His wife could have been sitting on his lap while he said what he said about Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark. You do not address another man's wife or talk about another man's wife when you have a disagreement with the man, period. Serenity and Low, I'm assuming you are a female. This is a man rule. All right, you do not have a say in this aspect of the conversation. I don't give a damn what his wife was doing. Don't mention another man's wife if your issue is with the man. If your issue is with the wife because she said something, then you could talk about the wife, and even better, you address the man and say, yo, your wife is this and that. And a man who is truly in his masculine can say to his wife, yo, don't go talking shit to another man because I got to deal with that man. All right. He ain't going to go address you. He's going to go address me. So watch what you're saying about another man, because if I wasn't here, you wouldn't be talking like that about no man. So don't put me in a position where I got to defend your words because you're getting reckless out of your mouth. This is the reason why men need to be in the driver's seat. If every man was in the driver's seat in his life, then we wouldn't have these situations where a man is addressing a woman. You don't address another man's woman under any circumstances unless she was talking directly to you and now you're talking to her. But you don't go use the woman as a tool to attack a man. That doesn't happen, and there's nowhere that this is okay. I don't care what she did on his podcast. Where was I? Nick said RG3 had his wife in the video. He brought his wife into the fold. Again, I already addressed that, so I don't even got to say that. Jenna said, thought these two were on rival teams. Well, they're not on teams anymore. They both stopped playing like 10 years ago or something like that. They were teammates again for some time. I don't know how long they were even teammates, maybe a season or two. And then they did TV together after that. But clearly, one guy doesn't like the other guy. I don't know what RG3 thinks about Ryan Clark. He didn't say he didn't like him. Ryan Clark made it clear he doesn't like RG3. Serenity said, isn't that in response to RG3 hiding behind his wife who was part of the convo? No, he wasn't hiding behind his wife. He said, Angel Reese hates Caitlin Clark. That's what he said. Mr. Jam Morris Boyd said, Ryan Clark was not wrong. On what grounds? Give your explanation. Milk said, do you think Bitcoin will reach all-time highs today? Where is it at right now? And what's the all-time? I thought it already hit an all-time high. What's the highest it's ever been? I thought the highest it's ever been was what I saw last us. Now, I think it was the highest was like 109. I think that's what it was. But you tell me what is the high so I know what number that would be. Let me see. Right now I'm looking at Bitcoin is at 107. All-time high was, I think it was 109. Yeah, the all-time high is 109. So right now is at 107. Well, it might. What I say to any investor, if you're investing in Bitcoin, don't even look at this shit. I don't even look at this shit. I'm invested in Bitcoin, but I don't look at that stuff every day. You go crazy. I say just hold on to your Bitcoin and eventually it's going to go up and it will be worth a lot more than 106 or 109. Just hold on to it and forget about it. My investing philosophy is buy and forget. K-Trade said RG3 should not have spoken on a woman. Oh, let me leave this conversation. You probably mega. K-Trade said he shouldn't have spoken on a woman. Why not? You speaking on a man right now, K-Trade. I'm assuming you're a female. So is a woman allowed to speak on a man, but a man's not allowed to speak on a woman? And if so, on what grounds? Secondly, he's a sports analyst. His job is to analyze sports, any sport. And third, if no one was analyzing or talking about a sport and you just had the games and there was no one talking about it, your favorite professional athletes would not make the money that they make because there would not be enough attention for them to make the money. The attention is driven by the media. Media drives attention. So any of you who don't understand or you get annoyed with analysts on TV saying things about your favorite athletes, understand that the fact that those media people say things about your favorite athlete is one of the reasons why you know about them, is one of the reasons why people tune in to watch, because the conversation is driven. If the media didn't exist to talk about athletes, they would get paid like your favorite elementary school and middle school teachers. Therefore, they would not be celebrities because they don't have the money. So you need them to do it. Even if you disagree with it, you want that disagreement to happen because that disagreement drives conversation and that conversation drives attention. That attention drives money. Without attention, there is no money. And the last thing K-Trey said is that you probably MAGA. What does MAGA have to do with any of this? I'm not MAGA. I'm not any political leaning. And what does that have to do with anything? Answer is absolutely nothing. You're trying to use MAGA as a pejorative. Bring some intelligence to the conversation. You're going to come over here. Murphy said, again, another great podcast. Thank you. Yes, we call this a podcast. I have an actual podcast called Work on Your Game. You can find that on Spotify and Apple. Fly Guy said, bro, you're totally wrong. Griffin is way off base. Clark didn't say anything about his wife, period. Yes, he did. We just talked about it. He said something about his wife. He said, you don't have a black woman at home, and I met your wife. She's a lovely lady. He literally said, I met your wife. She's a lovely lady. What do you mean he didn't say anything about his wife? Big War said, Ryan Clark out of pocket. Yes, he was very much out of pocket. Stay in your lane said, do you think Reese hates Caitlin Clark? No, I think she loves some aspects of this rivalry, quote unquote, and I think she hates some aspects of it. I don't think she has a problem with the person, Clark. I think she has some things she loves about the things that have happened because of it, and I think she hates some things that happen because of it. I'll even tell you, I wrote a post about it actually this morning. So when it comes to Reese, I think she likes the fact that race-obsessed black fans have made a celebrity out of her when her performance on the court is not worthy of celebrity, but she's become a celebrity because her race-obsessed black fans, that the ROI from this taunt has turned her into a star in ways that she wouldn't have gotten from just playing basketball. She wouldn't have her own podcast or any of that because nobody would give a damn what she had to say. Everybody cares what she has to say because of this black-white thing with the white girl, that she's gotten a whole bunch of attention that has nothing to do with her ability to play basketball. Her best skill is grabbing rebounds, and she grabs a lot of rebounds off missing layups. Her best skill is grabbing rebounds. That doesn't make you a celebrity, but she is one. And that she's getting the treatment of a star in a space where you actually have to bring substance. So it's not like she's Cardi B or Megan Thee Stallion, where you can just be a star for being a star. And it's not like Kim Kardashian, famous for doing nothing. In sports, you have to actually do something to be a star. She's not doing it, but she's a star anyway. So I think those are all good things for her. The negative things are There are Clark fans who want to see her lose. So every time she loses, she gets more blowback from people like, you missed another layup or you lost another game. She's going to get that for the rest of her career. She's going to get more attention and criticism of her play because she's not a very good basketball player. She's good at grabbing rebounds. She's not very skilled, at basketball. And the skill part being what she does with the ball. She has very little ball skills, and she's going to get taunted for that for the rest of her career until or unless she develops some ball skills, which I doubt, knowing what I know about basketball. There are the allegedly white people attacking her. And again, I say allegedly because on the internet, you don't know who is who. So the taunting she's going to get based off that. And then just the negative energy total, which a woman is not built to deal with the type of negative blowback she's getting, which is why she cried after she lost the college game 2 years ago, because all that negative backlash, a woman's not built to take that type of backlash consistently day after day. Donald Trump is built for that kind of backlash. Angel Reese is not built for that. And that's the reason why you got those tears, because all of that negative energy that she's been getting, she got to keep dealing with that shit. So do I think she hates Caitlin Clark? No, I don't. I think the resulting of the whole situation, there are some things she is good and some things that are bad. Oh, now we're talking about RG3 versus Ryan Clark is really what the conversation is about, using the canvas of Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. Carla, thank you for the goats. Serenity said, need 2 active parents. A lot of men think engagement ends at financial support. Yeah, because they weren't taught properly. Daily MAK said, you could bring people up on the panel here. Everyone could cam up and have discussion. No, I'm not keen on doing that. Who am I bringing up? I got to know who these people are. If I'm bringing somebody up in the middle of my conversation and I'm doing here, I need to know who that person is. If I don't know who they are, then no, that's not going to happen. Mr. Ohio J says, some garbage trucks got 2 steering wheels. All right, that's a good metaphor. I think you mean that literally, but it's a good metaphor. Garbage trucks got 2 steering wheels. Regular cars don't. Duck Going Buck said, you should have a set day wants to open up your panel so everyone can have a discussion. On what and with who? A discussion on what and with who? Carla said, that's true. Scottie Pippen said they understood MJ was the man. Yes, that's why they were good, because everybody knew their position. James said, we need more disruptions to the system. We need more women to lead. No, James, no, we don't. James said, we don't live in the past. Society had changed. Women can and will lead more and more. Just because something is old does not mean it's bad. Just because something is new does not mean it's good. So what you just offered there is a non sequitur. You said that we're not in the past, as if whatever came from the past is necessarily a bad thing. That is a false frame. 2 atoms of hydrogen and 1 atom of oxygen making water is from the past. That doesn't mean we should stop having H2O. We should stop calling it H2O just because it's old. So no, the man animal has not changed that much. Even though society has changed, man is deemed to lead, a woman is deemed to follow. That has not changed. Even though the world has changed. Now we got technology and we got the internet and we got TikTok. The world itself has not changed as much as people like to think that it's changed. And this entire fallacy of just because it's new, that means we should try it, reject it. Now, do I think more women will step into leadership positions? Yes, but you have to understand the reason why you can put a woman in a leadership position, such as president of the United States or CEO of a company, is because you live in a very safe society. That woman is not under any real physical threat. Now, back in the days of kings and queens, when a person who was leading and wasn't doing a good job could literally lose their head at the guillotine, you didn't see as many women leading because women were not built for that. Because if the men decided we don't want this bitch to lead, they could just break into the castle and chop her head off. Who's going to stop them? Now, Kamala is not under threat of having her head chopped off, and no CEO of Microsoft is at the threat of having their head chopped off. So it's much easier to lead when everything is safe and designed to help you. And if anything goes wrong, that woman leader, quote unquote leader, she can always make a phone call to who? A whole bunch of men to come physically defend her. So are you really leading, or are you just a figurehead? And that's a lot of women who are in leadership positions are figureheads. They're not really leading, because if push came to shove, the bottom line of communication between human beings is physical violence. When the Native Americans and the Pilgrims couldn't get along, what was the bottom line? It wasn't, oh, let's go get a woman who can help steer the discussion. No, it was, we're going to get our weapons. You go get your weapons, and let's see who wins. And we know who won, because look at America. The bottom line, when two sides cannot get along, is physical violence. The bottom line between men and women not getting along would become physical violence. What would happen? We all know what would happen, which is why women who understand their feminine role are happy to play the submissive role to a man, because they understand the bottom line of human communication is violence. And if it came to that, there would be no more women. And eventually there'd be no more people, because we wouldn't be able to reproduce. And everyone understanding their role and understanding their position, we get a working society. And when people want to step out of their role and step out of their position, that's when we get failures. So, James, hopefully that responds to your comment. Dolly said, we're not putting women in leadership roles for the hell of it. Earned or command it, but not given. Well, a woman can't demand a leadership role. There's no such thing. Because, again, what if a man says no? What if a woman demands a leadership role and a man says no? What are you going to do? Is she going to fight the man? Most women are not physically capable of winning that fight. So, no, it can be earned, quote unquote, but it still has to be bestowed upon them by somebody. Leadership is taken. It's not given. Carlos says, society need to appreciate the role women play. Wives and mothers are desperately needed. Yes, of course they are. Yes, because we can't reproduce without women. So we need that. Live Free said, Dre, I'm not spending my summers in Chicago watching a women's game. Me neither. Some people watch, though. Scott said, one day refs in the WNBA will hold them to a higher standard and sport will improve. Well, I don't think it's the refs is going to make it improve. I think the game is good. I think the players in the WNBA, the actual women who play basketball, I believe they are good at basketball. And it's not about just being good. It's, does anybody care? You can be really good at something and nobody cares. That's just how it works. Sometimes people are just not interested in what you're doing, even if you're great at it. I don't think there's anything wrong with the players in WNBA. It's just that people are not interested. If I could watch a basketball game between men and women, I'm going to watch the men, because men are better players than women. Doesn't mean the women aren't good. It's just the men are better. And if I had a choice, I'm taking the men. The all-time high was 109. Yeah, that's what I thought. AJ said, what's the best way at making millions? Sell something. Duck said, I'm 20. How much should I invest in Bitcoin right now? I have a few thousand left over after bills a month. I don't want to give you financial advice, because that could be used against me legally. I would say play around with it. I would say go invest $10 in Bitcoin right now and just get a feel for how the platform works. And then as you see how things go, you can make other decisions. Stay in your lane said, do you talk about investing on a pod? I did a whole live stream about this maybe 3-4 months ago, but I do talk about money and mindset around money on my podcast, which is called Work on Your Game. You can find it on Apple and Spotify. So yes, that's what you're talking about, yes. On these streams, I'm usually talking about a current event. A couple more minutes, folks, then we'll wrap this up. Boltman said, when you're a professional athlete, you got to deal with it. No way around it, regardless of gender. Yes, well, not everybody, because not everybody gets attention. Only the star players really get talked about. The role players don't get talked about that much in certain sports. It depends on how much attention you're getting. Newt says, smartest person on the platform. Thank you. Dolly Mack said, that's my point. Oh, well, I don't know what you're referring to. Alex said, Amanda Nunes can demand one. Yeah, well, she can't beat most men. I mean, she can beat most women in fighting. Not even most men. She can't beat most men who can also fight. She can beat most women who can fight, and she can beat a lot of men who can't fight. But again, push comes to shove, she would be dead too. Push comes to shove, there would be no women. They would all get wiped out. Actually, this is what would happen. If there became a war between men and women, here's what would actually happen. A bunch of combative women who think they're men will try to fight, and they would get offed. They'd be dead. And then the women who are smart enough to know that they shouldn't even try to fight would submit to the men from the very beginning, and they would be the wives who would help procreate and create the rest of society. So basically, all feminists would get eliminated, and there would only be feminine women left. Feminine and submissive women would be the only ones who remained, and all the feminist women would be eliminated. That's what would actually happen if there was a war between men and women. That would actually might be a good idea. But anyway, good morning, Michelle. You're late today. That's okay. Well, I'm late too. That's why I'm still here. So we're going to wrap this one up, folks. It is 10:30. I need to go to the bathroom. I do these live streams Monday through Friday, usually from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. And let me answer one more question over here. Fit Business was asking me the question about should you live in South Beach, Brickell, or Edgewater? And Fit, he says, he's 23, single, independent, athletic trainer, full-time, part-time nightclub security. Oh, South Beach. Easy. South Beach, all day. Brickell is cool, and Edgewater is cool as well, but I lived in South Beach. You can't beat South Beach. As a single man, single and independent, you're an athletic trainer, so Fit Business, I'm assuming you're in good shape. You're in good physical shape, like you look good with your shirt off, pause, no diddy, then South Beach. There's no second answer. Now, while you're living in South Beach, I don't know if you got a car or not, you should every now and then go over to Brickell or go over to Edgewater and they'll go have lunch and they'll see what's going on. But I would live in South Beach. I would absolutely live in South Beach. If I was your age, again, single, independent, I was never an athletic trainer, but being an athlete and you work nightclub security, you might as well be in South Beach. I mean, things happen in South Beach 24 hours a day. South Beach is like Manhattan. It never sleeps. So Ali Pop said, what was that about feminists you said? What I said was if all men and all women went to war, the feminists would all get eliminated. The feminists are the women who think they can do everything a man can do and they can replace men. They would get eliminated. They would be dead. The only women who will survive would be the submissive, feminine women who are okay with submitting themselves to a man. All the rest of the women would get eliminated. That's what would happen. All right, everybody, we're wrapping this one up. I will see you all tomorrow at 8 a.m. Eastern. Check the link in my profile if you're watching on TikTok. My Instagram is there. My YouTube is there. And my workonyourgame.live link is there. That's where you can get access to my books, my coaching program. You want to have me as your coach. You want to get into our courses. You want to get access to my free chat bot called Dre GPT. All of that is at that link that's in my profile on TikTok. You can see the pin link over here on Instagram. It's also in my comments on YouTube. So that's that, everybody. I gotta go to the bathroom. I'll see you all tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Eastern. Topic to be determined. We are out of here.